And we are live.
Good morning, everyone.
Feels like we've been gone for so long. Is it 2 weeks or 3 weeks? I think it was 3 weeks,
I think
right?
it's been 3 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. We were actually out of town because we were out of town last weekend, which is normally when we would have done it. So good Saturday morning to everyone.
Mhm.
It's definitely summer. I was getting bitten by mosquitoes. So if you see me scratching myself, that's why, because I got bit by like 3 mosquitoes this morning when I was outside. So um anyway, hopefully if just one check, if you guys can hear us and see us okay,
Yes.
so that we're not talking into the wind. Let me adjust my microphone. We're actually talking this morning. It still seems like I'm getting complaints that people cannot hear me. And it's weird because when we're sitting here talking in person, I'm talking way louder than Taylor is. But for some reason, my voice trails off in the mic. And I don't know if it's because my voice is deeper and it just maybe the mic setting is not
Yeah.
tuned to uh
Yeah.
you know how the gain or whatever in the mic. So
Yeah.
I
We're
am
good.
yeah. Okay, cool. Well, thank you guys for being here this morning. What to talk about? Well, we'll get to the
Mhm.
questions, I promise. So go ahead and just drop your questions in the chat. I know we've got some people already putting their
Yeah.
questions in
We have a
there.
lot of questions already in there.
Yeah. Um, let's see. Housekeeping stuff. It's been maybe almost 2 weeks since I launched the AI chat tool.
Mhm.
Seems to have been really good feedback so far. Honestly, I will admit I was a little nervous because I built that myself. I'm not a full-blown techie. I know enough to be dangerous, but definitely not like a software developer by any means.
Mhm.
But with all the AI tools that we have now, what I did is I fed every video, podcast, you name it, into that and then used it to turn it into like a language model just for that. So if you ask it something like, if you ask it like, what fertilizer does Hunter use on his lawn? It'll say he's never talked about that.
Because he doesn't do his
Now someone's
lawn.
probably going to go ask, well, no, I've done enough of that for one lifetime growing up. But the point is if you ask it a question that is not in there, it's just going to tell you this has never been talked
Mhm.
about. Here's where you can go to look that up, but it's not in the data set there, which is pretty cool. And from the feedback I've got from people that have sent me responses so far, seems to be working well. I will say the one thing that kind of stinks is I was underestimating how many people would use it,
Mhm.
which is a good thing. Like I want people to use it, but I'm making it free and I have to pay because it consumes power. So like with all this AI stuff, you have power consumption tokens. And basically when people are using it, because I'm hosting it, I get charged for the power consumption of the
Mhm.
tokens. And so it is costing me more than I thought it would be. And so maybe I can do something where it's just like you get like, 1,000 queries per month for free. And then beyond that, because some of from the consumption, there was way more use than I will say that I was expecting, which is a good thing. Like I'm
Yeah.
happy. But it seems to be that the feedback is really good so far on the questions and the ones that people have sent me just as like a sample of like, hey, this is what I asked and this is what
Mhm.
it said. It seems to be pretty close to.
Imagine if you had that tool like when I first started learning about peptides. That would have been so helpful than having to
What do you
come and
think I
ask you.
would I have just told you? Look, babe, use my AI tool.
I know I just would have done that rather than like asking you so many questions,
Well, that's
which is
okay.
good because it was
Yeah.
learning. But I mean,
The thing
yeah.
is, but I mean, the AI chat tool is good, but that's obviously still why we have the private group and we do these live streams.
Yeah.
Because as much as people can interact with that, actually, I learn more from the questions that people ask me.
Mm.
And a lot of the knowledge that I have is just because I've gotten feedback from a lot of people. I tell people that all the time. So anyway, but that seems to be going well. I will say for the month of June upcoming, we have 4 different podcast guests that we're going to schedule to do recordings. And one thing I would love to hear from you guys just as feedback. I always okay, I'll kind of explain as your platform grows, which is a very good thing. You get more and more people that want to come onto your platform to share whatever message it is.
Mhm.
And that's a good thing. That's kind of the game a lot of people play. There's nothing wrong with that. I will say I was never a person that built my audience through going on other people's content.
Mhm.
Meaning that like I didn't go like on a podcast circuit and go on like 100 podcasts in 100 days, like a lot of people try to do when they're trying to build their brand or whatever. What I did is I just published content that was done by me or done together with you and did my best to make it educational. And that's what kind of built my following. And what happens is you get a lot of people once you have a following that want to come onto yours in order to grow their following again, which is there's nothing wrong with. But I always struggle internally with like how much do I do guest content versus just continuing to do educational content. Because one side of me is like, well, educational content by myself, it could be, I guess, maybe self-aggrandizing or selfish versus doing content with other people. But then when it comes to other people too, it's like, no offense to anyone else out there, but there's not that many what I would call like super peptide voices that are like, there's definitely people that I would want to have on.
Mhm.
But a lot of people just have supplement companies or whatever that they want to bring onto a podcast, and they know because you have like views and rankings and whatever. And I guess what I'm saying is like, I would love to know from my audience, I'm not probably the best guest interviewer because that's just not what I do. Yeah, Taylor would be the first to tell you, no, I'm not a good guest interviewer. But I think there's value in doing podcasts with other people, but at the same
Yeah.
time, I'm very guarded against because you see this in the health, fitness, biohacking industry of people that get platforms, then all of a sudden their content turns into a shill machine for brands that pay to have sponsored guests come on to.
Well, I think it's just like it's just all about like what your goal is. Like you're not an interview person. And podcasts, if you want podcast guests, is because you're really good at interviewing people. Not that it's saying that you're bad at interviewing people, but like you are an educator. That's how I like to think of it, as more so you like you're a teacher. So like you want to teach material. So I think having podcast guests can be beneficial, but I don't think it needs to be your full thing because that's not how you built your brand. That's not what your viewers want from you.
Yeah.
I think once a month guest.
Well,
Are
to me,
great.
whether it's once a month, however often it is, I would just prefer to be someone that I would be interested in talking to because I
Mhm.
think when we look at what is interesting to people is if they hear a conversation that is interesting. And that's where probably like I'm not going to be Good Morning America and sit and interview people like Michael Strahan.
No.
I'd like to talk to them and learn from them, of course. And I think some of the stuff we've done with like Sarah and Alex, people love that. But that's because they're very deep subject matter experts.
Yeah.
And that's where it's like when it comes to peptide stuff, like I don't want to talk to someone about vitamin C. Like it's okay, like who is
Mhm.
that really that interesting? And it's just they're trying to do that. So
Yeah.
anyway, that's just one thing. I know my audience likes me for the content I provide. And I think like as it continues to evolve and everything, I like
Mhm.
doing this with you. I like doing my solo stuff. I obviously love doing our group stuff, but I just don't know how much I really want to open it up to other people, if
Yeah.
that makes sense. But
Yeah.
anyway,
It's okay.
just thoughts.
Yeah.
Anything on your mind this morning? Anything you see people out there struggling with?
I feel like lately I've had a lot of people struggling with plateauing with GLPs.
Mhm.
And then I feel like sometimes I feel like I'm beating a dead horse saying this. Obviously, hormones are the foundation. We're not going to go into that because that's what we always talk about is getting your hormones done first before starting any peptides. Or if you already started peptides, get the hormones done. But how many people do not do cardio?
Mm.
And that is something that I feel like lately I'm constantly seeing with people is saying they've plateaued with their GLP, like if they're on tirzepatide or Retta and they want to add CAG to it, or if they want to add another GLP to what they're already doing. And it's sometimes like it's important to remember the foundations and coming back to the basics of like, what is your macro count? What is your exercise routine? And there's still a lot of people that do not do cardio. And I don't know. It's like kind of like it's not going to work and you're not going to lose weight properly if you do not exercise with these peptides and with GLPs.
Yeah.
So, and even if you're just doing like, it's annoying. Like I've said over the years, I don't like doing cardio. Like that's changed a lot now. Like now it's just like, it's not non-negotiable. Like I did not want to get up and do cardio this morning. Didn't feel like it. Yesterday, I was ready to get up and do cardio. Today, wasn't feeling it, but I forced myself to do it and I feel a lot better. But it's just like if you just get out of bed and do 30 minutes of cardio first thing in the morning, like just get it out of the way. Like it's just 30 minutes, put a show on, get an iPad, put a show on, listen to a book. Like it makes such a big difference if you just get 30 to 45 minutes of cardio in on a piece of equipment every day.
Yeah. It does make life a lot better if you just do cardio. And
Yeah.
to me, like you said, I don't really, and this is a lot of people that watch us, this would be how they feel. But then there's a lot of people that are struggling, if they need to lose 70 pounds or so, and it's very hard for them. But I'll just take your dad, for instance. And I know I like pick on him a lot when we're doing content stuff, which we should do content with him. He would be good to.
I mean, I've been telling you that.
Yeah.
And anytime I bring it up, you're like,
well, I think it just would be entertaining for people because he's
crazy.
he's just a very gregarious, interesting guy. But he actually was doing cardio this week for the very first time ever. And he was talking about how hard it was. And see, like to us, if you're an athlete and or someone that trains a lot, like cardio is it's almost like an afterthought of you just do it because it's like brushing your teeth. Like how many people complain about brushing your teeth? It's not something that people usually complain about. But then when you get in the habit of it, it's honestly one of the easiest things, especially if you're talking about zone 2 cardio, that would just be like fasted cardio that you're doing every day. It's just, you kind of just get on the machine or you go outside and you do it and then it's done. And you can listen to a book, you can listen to a podcast, you can read a book, you can watch a TV show or whatever it is. But I think to the point about people plateauing, what's interesting is people with GLPs, I think this study was on semaglutide. People that were exercising while on semaglutide versus people that didn't exercise actually maintained their bone density, whereas people on semaglutide that didn't exercise lost bone density over time. These are not people that are on hormone therapy at all. And so even just the exercise alone, even if it's just light cardio, because this was not when they did the exercise, I think it was like zone 2 cardio. They didn't even look at, I don't think, lifting weights. Like it was literally just cardio, but it maintained bone density because they were active and doing it. I think that's important to the point of plateauing on GLPs because I think this is what we're seeing now, but imagine how this plays out in the next 5 to 10 years of the amount of people that are going to be plateauing on GLPs because they'll have like that 6 to 12 months of initial success. And then it's gonna be like, okay, I can't break through the rate. And that's where it's like, there really should be a framework of like hormones, thyroid, growth hormone, axis, mitochondrial health, exercise, diet, lifestyle, all those things, sleep that go into it. Because I really think even take retatrutide out of the picture, even with tirzepatide, I think everyone can get the fat loss they need from tirzepatide. Might not happen as fast or aggressively as with retatrutide, but still, I think everyone can get the fat loss that they need with tirzepatide. I will update people. I've been on mazdutide for about a month now. I will say it is not superior to Reta.
Yeah.
I will put it closer to maybe tirzepatide in terms of like the effects.
The effects, I wouldn't say like inflammatory properties. It's not as good. Just for inflammation.
Yeah,
I think mazdutide is going to be better for getting stuff like fat off, especially if there's liver fat. I do think it would be more beneficial to use mazdutide.
Yeah.
Out of all the GLPs. Yeah. But just strictly for fat loss, I think it's beneficial.
Yes. And go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, what I would say is that it doesn't seem to have as much as like the background anti-inflammatory that tirzepatide does.
Correct.
Does seem to increase metabolic rate a little bit more, which I think when you look at fat loss would probably net out about the same. So it's kind of what experience you want to have. I will say there definitely is a real component of the GIP counterbalancing the nausea that is coming from the GLP-1.
Yeah.
And when you don't have that, I will say mazdutide was closer to feeling like semaglutide from like a nausea standpoint than tirzepatide or retatrutide.
Yeah.
With that. And so I will say probably people in those first few weeks might struggle a little bit more with that because there's a higher proportion of GLP-1 agonism than there is with tirzepatide or retatrutide. And so milligram for milligram, you're getting more GLP-1, which could cause more nausea, more stomach issues. Yeah. It wasn't bad by any means, but I did notice that of like feeling full really fast. Whereas like with tirzepatide or retatrutide, you'd get full, but it's not as uncomfortable full as it has been with mazdutide.
Yeah.
But I still think it's good. And if anything, I think what is interesting about it is it will be a good cycle interrupt for people that are plateauing and maybe
Yeah.
they want to switch over.
Yeah.
And I do think even though they're similar agonism, I think the very fact that it's a different compound
Yeah.
is having some sort of reset to the sensitivity of the other compound.
Yeah.
And so
Well,
even if
you're
you
getting more glucagon with it too, which is going to be more beneficial
yeah,
for the fat loss, especially
yeah.
the liver fat.
And even if, let's say someone's on retatrutide, they're plateauing, they switch over to mazdutide, they're probably going to like start to break through the plateau a little bit just because it's a different compound. And then you could use that for 8 weeks, go back to retatrutide and probably be like, oh man, now the retatrutide is working better because you took that time off of it. And so for the people that are scared of momentum, I'm fine with taking 8 weeks off of a GLP because like I'm one, I don't have a lot of weight I need to lose. And then also two, like I know what I'm doing. So I'm like, good, like, oh, I'll take 8 weeks off. But a lot of people get scared. I don't want to take 8 weeks off because I'm going to like gain the weight back and everything like that. And I think in that case, mazdutide could be a very good adjunct to retatrutide. Retatrutide would still be king though, in my opinion. Yeah. But
I don't know. I do think like, I don't know, just like, I don't know, simplest like exercise is just, I just still think that's like what I was trying to express is so important here is the exercising that people aren't doing.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's very simple. Every morning, get up, do 30 minutes of cardio every day.
Yeah.
3 days a week, do a full body split, or 4 days a week.
Lift, you mean?
Lift. Yeah. Sorry. 3 days a week, do a full body workout or do a 4-day split body workout. 2 upper body, 2 lower body.
Yeah.
2 days a week, those days that you lift, do 15 minutes of HIIT at the end of that workout.
Agreed.
And that HIIT will definitely make a big difference on getting the fat off.
Or you can get a sled and push it up and down your driveway and creep out all your neighbors.
You can do that too. You can do that too.
That's a great
But that doesn't replace the HIIT. There's something.
Oh, you don't think so?
I mean,
I think when I was running with it, when you turn it a little bit lighter and run with it, that's pretty hard for HIIT.
Well, that's hard. Yes.
Yeah. I guess I see what you're saying because you're probably not getting your heart rate into like the 170s or 180s if you're just pushing it.
And if you don't like HIIT, easiest thing to do is to get a reformer rebound trampoline.
Yeah.
And do that.
And just run on it.
It's so much fun.
It's good on your joints.
It's good on your joints.
Yeah. Yeah. Also too, like when I ride my bike in the neighborhood, I'll have like go up the hills and I'll like sprint up the hills.
Yeah.
That's usually pretty good for HIIT. I've been doing just nicer in the summer.
Did you turn the air up really high in here?
No, but if you need to
I'm
go,
like sweating.
If you need to go turn it down, I mean, it's hotter outside and I think it's set on like 72. So if you want to go turn it to like 70 or 69.
It's really hard for me to get this. But anyways, it's fine. It was just fun. I just like noticed that. Like,
I'll go turn it down real quick.
Yeah. Can you go turn it down? Sorry, guys. Sorry. I'm like, there's like 3 huge lights in this room and we do turn the air up higher up here in the morning so it's warmer when we do cardio so we can sweat more. But like, I'm literally like dying, sweating right now. So, yeah, didn't realize that happened. Thank you. I'm sorry. I know how you feel now.
Yeah, well,
like I can literally feel my body like.
The thing about these chairs, it's weird because when we do the coaching calls on Thursday night, and it may just because we've
No, it's because you turn the air up. And usually when you do the coaching calls, you've been up here working all day.
But usually
so the air's down.
Yeah. Anyway, well, the fan's on now, so hopefully give it another 5 minutes and we'll be cool. Okay, let's go to the questions.
Yeah.
The first question, and I remembered to put it on the screen this time, is actually really good. Can we get a live suggestion on diet while on Reddit? I've heard so many conflicting views. 1 to 3 sample meals.
Okay, so sample meal would be breakfast. I would do either oatmeal, cream of rice with protein powder, or if you can tolerate eggs, do eggs. I would say like 1 whole egg and then egg whites. And then I would do some type of carbohydrate. So whether you want to get that from like a smaller portion of oatmeal or if you want to get that through like a piece of sourdough bread would be great. And then always try to get some type of berries in the morning. Lunch, I would say, if this is your post-workout meal, I'm just assuming this person's going to exercise in the morning. Lifting wise, I would say post-workout meal would be some type of like lean protein. So like chicken or turkey, if you want to do turkey, as long as it's like turkey breast, lean, and then carbohydrates. So I would say either rice, cream of rice again, potatoes with no fat. I would just avoid fats for at least 2 hours after lifting. And then dinner, I would say let that be like a little bit more of like more fats at dinner. That way the fats are going to help you sleep. So again, what?
Well, typically the carbohydrates would signal serotonin.
Yeah, but the
So-
fats help when you do, if you don't, higher fats are also going to help you with sleep too.
Okay.
No? You don't agree with me?
I mean, I think just a balanced meal will. I will say typically
I
carbs.
think women do better. Women that try to do low fat, they don't sleep as much. And you add more fat to that diet, they will sleep better.
I'm not disagreeing. I'm
Yeah.
just saying typically
You talk
like
to Jen and I talk about this all the time.
I'm not disagreeing. What I'm saying is that if people are going to eat carbs, I like to skew them towards the end of the day because it helps with serotonin signaling. Well, they'll get in deeper sleep.
Okay, but they still need to have carbs if they're after they're lifting. If they're lifting in the morning, they still
know
need to have
that.
carbs in order
Yeah.
to fuel that muscle.
Continue.
Yeah. So dinner would be carbohydrates, your fats, and then like healthy added fats, whether it's olive oil, grass-fed butter. If you want to do like avocado, you can. And then again, leaner meat. So even if you're doing beef, just try to keep the beef on the leaner side.
Yeah. Taylor hates what I do, but for me, this is easier. All I do during the typical week, and this sounds weird, maybe a little extremist, I just eat fruit all day. And then I lift at 5 p.m. in the afternoon, evening. And then after I lift, I eat beef or chicken, rice or potatoes, or rice and potatoes. And I'll put like a little bit of avocado oil, olive oil with that. And then after that, we'll walk the dogs and I come back and I'll have some sour mango. Shout out to Fruit Riot because their mango, the frozen mango is really good because it tastes like candy, but it's just got like a little coating on the outside of it. And that's it. So to a lot of people, that would be extremist, but if you just eat fruit all day with nothing else.
Yeah, I don't
And then-
suggest a lot of women doing that, especially if they still have menstrual cycles, because like their bodies are going through changes 3 times a month. If you're going to do that, I would say do it more so like don't do it during your luteal phase of your cycle.
I know. I was just giving the example of what I do.
Yeah.
But all right. Next question. Diet is can be variable to everyone. All right. What's up, Shinna? She says, can Glow be taken intramuscular? I have someone doing that and I didn't think it was right. I mean, you could. I don't think it will be bad. Potentially, sometimes people might have less of the welts and the redness from the GHK if they do it intramuscular because there's less mast cells or immune cells that react to it if you're doing it intramuscular. So I think for people that really struggle with that, they could potentially try that to maybe offset some of the redness and the itchiness and the swelling that comes from the GHK. But
Same thing with CJC.
yeah, you could potentially do that with CJC or
Mhm.
tesamorelin. But anyway, there's no right or wrong. Ultimately, we don't know. We don't have like a pharmacokinetic study to see how it plays out differently there. But I would say I would only do that if it's because you can't take it sub-Q because the pain and the redness and the itchiness is so bad. But either one is fine. What's up, Jim? Jim is always here. He is the man. Devin says, thoughts on Pilotax and how it stacks up against compounds like SS31 and empagliflozin for kidney health. I do like Pilotax. I will say it's much more of a slow burn. And for someone with CKD or kidney issues, I would say SS31 and empagliflozin or dapagliflozin, which are Jardiance Farxiga, those would be what I would lean into right away. Potentially even MOTS-C with the SS31 to help out. Start the SS31 first, kind of get accustomed to that, and then you could potentially layer in the MOTS-C. But Pilotax will be the oral bioregulator for the kidneys, I think there's nothing wrong with adding that on top of those. I just wouldn't tell someone if they have CKD or any sort of pressing kidney issue to just use Pilatex. But I think in conjunction with those, it does great, but it would be probably fourth or fifth down the line of SS31. Empagliflozin, potentially even something like a MOTS-c to add into that. But I do like it. It's just sometimes the oral bioregulators, some people they work, some people they don't. And it's just kind of one of those things. I don't want to tell people like, oh yeah, it's going to be the greatest thing ever, because I haven't seen that in practice, but it's still good to add on. Shinna says, stack for mold toxicity. The easy answer would be thymosin alpha 1, LL37. I really like thymolin. I really like SS31 because typically there's a lot of mitochondrial dysfunction that comes from mold. Glutathione works really well too. VIP can be really good, but I usually, from what data I've read, the VIP usually does pretty well after you clear the mold from the body. And so VIP would typically where someone has CIRS, which is chronic inflammatory response syndrome to the mold. Even after the mold has been cleared from their body, there's still this inflammatory cascade that's going on. And I really like VIP at that point. I don't know. It's just not really been looked at when people are taking VIP with the mold still in their system, but you could add that in after once you're sure that the mold is cleared. Any other thoughts?
No, I agree.
What's up, Sean? Devin also asked thoughts on ergothioneine. Honestly, I don't know anything about it. Thus, I would not speak on it. Have you ever heard of ergothioneine?
Never heard.
I don't know. So sorry, Devin. I'm not aware of that one. I'll look it up and see, but I don't know what that one does. Donnie says, can you explain how to take GHRH, GHRP, and HGH all year round with no breaks, cycling back and forth for the smartest way without desensitization? Is this even a thing you would recommend? And he says, I personally don't want to take HH more than 3.5 months. So that's why I asked about cycling GHRP and GHRH. Any thoughts on that one?
So he's saying he doesn't want to take growth hormone more than 3.5
months consecutively. In that case, what I would do, Donnie, is I would just do HGH by itself for those 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
You could really think about it like breaking up the year into 3-month chunks. So let's say Q1, you do HGH and you do that for 3 months. And then you could move to a GHRH like tesamorelin. And I would probably just do tesamorelin by itself. I know people like to combine it with IPA, but that's really, really strong. And like, I am not someone that is always, I don't like to push people to do Tessa and IPA together unless they're really trying to put on mass.
Yeah.
Because you'll get, for people that are trying to lean out, you will get results, but it's honestly like, to me, that feels almost like 4 to 6 IUs of GH when I have Tessa and IPA together. And I would say do tesamorelin in isolation. So I'd say, let's say Q1, HGH, Q2, tesamorelin, and then assuming you don't want to be on HGH more than 3.5 months, you could go to ipamorelin or ipamorelin and CJC in Q3. So maybe CJC and IPA, assuming you do well with both of those. And then maybe in Q4, you could do MK777, which is a small molecule GHRP, which I like better than MK677. I actually went back to using that a little bit this week just to cycle off growth hormone. Just to, one, I wanted to see because I haven't used it in a while. And I will say it feels very equivalent to taking like 2 to 3 IUs of growth hormone, albeit it's still the GHRP. So it's raising endogenous production, not exogenous like the growth hormone. And so that's how I think about it. You don't have to get too complicated. It's just go HGH, a GHRH, GHRP with a GHRH like CJC and IPA. And then you could do the oral MK777 if you wanted to. But I personally don't have an issue with, I stay on growth hormone pretty much year round. Maybe I'll take 1 month off, like I'm, doing MK777 and play around with that. But I would say I don't have concerns about that, but I know for whatever reason, some people do, and that's totally fine with them. So that's kind of how to rotate it. But again, there's no right or wrong answer to that. So you're going to have to do it yourself, and play with that. But I don't think there's an issue with combining growth hormone with a tesamorelin or something like that. I would just use that for a very specific use case. And so maybe a guy's like in his 60s, a woman's in her 60s, they have a little bit more visceral fat than they want to, they could use tesamorelin at the night and maybe 1 IU of GH in the morning. And I think that would be fine. But I don't think you need to do that all the time. It would be more of a use case situation. Good to hear, Wendy. The chat was working good for the mold toxicity answer. I would be interested to see how it compared against what we said this morning. And we'll go play around with that when we're done. All right. Yes, Ninja Master. This is live. Sean, yes, I do add every new video to the AI. I think it does it weekly, so it wouldn't be right away, but usually within a week or so, it should be updated into the database there. All right. Let me fix that. Doc says, I'm cutting for summer and Primo and Retta make me way too flat. I'm 15% body fat, but sometimes my abs don't show. You think starting Anavar pre-workout will help bring out my abs better than Primo acetate? Probably. I would say in an 8-week window, yes, they would. It's interesting because if you look at Retta from the bodybuilding side of things, I have heard this complained about on the bodybuilding side of things of Retta making people kind of flat. And maybe I will say even when I've done higher doses of it, I kind of feel that too. You don't feel the same like roundness, fullness, and complete just pump in your muscle that you would if you were on a lower dose or not on it at all. Probably, I wonder if that has something to do with insulin, just like insulin dynamics within the body. And so I would say, I mean, Anavar definitely will, like, there's no question about it. I would say for showing your abs, Anavar would be definitely better than Primo acetate, I would say. But what do you think?
No, I agree.
You good?
Mm-hmm.
Lisa says, can you talk about how to use oxytocin injections or sprays preferred?
I'd say oxytocin nasal spray, I think, is great for if you're dealing with more so like anxiety and anxiousness. I think it's good to have it in a spray because that way you can use it like as needed. I do think injections are great if you're wanting to get more so for the emotional connection, for intimacy, I think is really good. I think that it can be really great for post-workout muscle injections. So like if you're training a certain muscle group, like let's just say the glutes, and you inject that IM into your glutes after training, it does help with fullness in the muscles that you're injecting it to. And I think that even using it nasally, I think can be beneficial like 45 minutes before eating if you're struggling with just like food cravings or binge eating and overeating. It does help with that emotional kind of stimulation of like, if you are an emotional eater, it can help with those food cravings and help you go into the meal feeling more calm, less anxious. If that's a trigger for somebody who has emotional eating, you'll actually feel fuller and you won't eat as much.
Yeah.
You get more sensation from the food where it's like, okay, I'm good.
Yeah. Definitely clinical data to back that up. People eat less, which is interesting. They self-report eating the same, but they eat less, which to me, I think when I've done that personally, it feels you experience the pleasure of food without eating as much. Whereas like a GLP, you don't really experience the pleasure of eating food. Kind of just becomes a chore at some point and can be uncomfortable. But yeah, I think the good way to think about it is like injections, slower onset of the feel, but it lasts longer. Whereas the spray, quicker onset, but lasts shorter. And so if you're doing the spray to have like the feel for the whole day, you probably have to spray 4 times.
Yeah.
Whereas the injection, at most, I would say 2 times a day, but you could really get once a day and you probably have like a more lasting feel over the whole day. Like if you do it in the morning, it's going to last for a few hours, maybe even into the later afternoon. So that would be kind of my experience with it. Good to hear the AI is doing well. Yes, the AI tokens get expensive. And so working on a solution for that. I mean, my goal is to always keep it free, but it probably would just have to be something if someone is consuming a ton of power through it, like there would be a limit, like 1,000 queries or something per day that would have. So we'll see. But for right now, it's free, and it's my intent to keep it free. Alonzo says, can you take ATX 304 with 5-amino and MOTS-C? Absolutely. I love doing
Like,
that,
great.
just be ready because
Yeah.
if you struggle with heart rate issues, like if you're on retatrutide, that will spike your heart rate and potentially, depending on your insulin sensitivity, just make sure you're good because a lot of people can go hypoglycemic with all three of those things together. Even the 5-amino Lamotte can do that. But
I
yeah,
would do that. Like, that would be a really good workout for cardio. Like, I
correct.
personally would not do that before I'm gonna resistance train,
Yeah.
but doing that and waiting like at least 30 minutes after you take the ATX to then do cardio makes a huge difference.
ATX is interesting. And this makes sense if you think about it. So you would never take metformin before a resistance training session, limiting to mTOR, right? We want to grow muscle. We want the anabolic thing going on when we're lifting. If you look at ATX, it's I think ATX is basically metformin 2.0. It's like metformin without the downsides. But that being said, I have taken it before a lot of strength training sessions, and it felt like I had taken metformin before. Like I felt much weaker, specifically during that training session. And so, as an AMPK activator, mTOR inhibitor, which is good for longevity, good for fat loss and everything, when we talk about in the context of strength training, I don't want that around the 4-hour window that I'm strength training, 2 hours before and 2 hours after. I don't want that then, but I do want it around times I'm not doing that. And for instance, cardio would be really good because we're zone 2 cardio. We're looking at beta oxidation. We're looking at burning fat and those things. And in that case, it can be really good. 5-amino and MOTS, no problem before resistance training. But if I was going to use the ATX, I would use that before cardio, but I would stay away from using it around the resistance training window. But otherwise, I love ATX. It's just, for me, what I notice is to get the real benefits, you have to get in like that 500 to 700 milligram range, which again, if it's a 100 milligram capsule, 30 capsules in a bottle, you're talking about using the whole bottle in 6 days. And if a bottle's $250 or $200 or whatever it is, it gets expensive. And so hopefully that comes down in the future, but it is an amazing product. I love that product for sure. It's just,
why do you think it's so expensive? Is it just because it's a more expensive molecule to make?
Demand is part of it. So if you look back, this is kind of crazy. If you look back, just if people are interested in like the supply chain nature of stuff, you look back to SLU when that first came on the scene, there was not a lot of demand for it. And so to get it synthesized and made, it was more costly. And that's why when SLU came out, it was like $300 or $400 a bottle. To now, there's so much demand for it. And so factories that are making it and synthesizing it, whatever, there's enough demand for it where they can make it, and that brings the cost down. When it comes to ATX, one, it is more expensive molecule, like BAM15 is more expensive molecule, but there's not enough demand. And so to go get the raw material and then synthesize it, it's just going to cost more to do that because it's less demanded. If the market demanded it more, obviously that would drive the price down. It would drive more people into selling it and everything. And so it's really just a supply and demand thing that right now there's not enough demand. And so creating the raw material requires more capital because it's a limited demand pool for it. But I think if there were more people that demanded it, obviously it would probably come down more closer to the price of SLU. So like we're now SLU is everywhere. And I love SLU, PP332, but it's also, it's become so widespread. Whereas I remember 2024 when that first came on the scene, it was so hot, and it was hard to get because it became popular and that ended up driving the price down. Very good question from Jacqueline. Which is more effective, injectable PE 2228 or nasal spray? I would say personally for me, I've done both. They feel the same to me. But I did have someone send me a message.
You did a nasal spray?
Yeah, I took the syringe and I just loaded a syringe and then shot it up my nose. Well, the reason I did that is because I had someone message me.
Does not surprise me.
Well, you can do that. I mean, it was with backwater. It just burned a little bit more, but you can do it. But I had someone message me because this is why I tried that. I had someone message me and they said they had struggled with depression for a long time. I believe this was a guy, struggled with depression for a long time, and they had taken PE 2228 via injection and never noticed anything from it.
Yeah.
And then they started taking a nasal spray, and it was like all of a sudden the lights came on, and it was like a breakthrough for that person with their depression in a good way. Like their depression was gone basically. And I thought that was interesting because when you look at some of these nootropic molecules, this is where you'll have the converse of like what we would typically say is the injections being better. When we look at some of these like PE 2228, CMAX, Salang, P21, when you talk about like crossing the blood-brain barrier, in some cases that nasal spray is probably crossing more effectively via the spray because it's so close.
Yes.
It's getting there rapidly and having that effect. And it's not the injection is not working, but again, to go back to what we were talking about with oxytocin, the spray quicker and faster, whereas the injection is taking time to have that effect. And in the case of that, for this person, it seemed like the spray was working much superior to the injection. And so I think I would just tell people to play with both. You could do either one. For me, I got benefits, really good benefits, just from like a mental clarity standpoint, a good mood standpoint from doing both. But it probably depends on the person, probably depends on their unique neurochemistry. But I would say if someone does have depression, give both a try. Maybe even try the nasal spray first. Obviously, that's easier for people to do. Yep, we have mosquitoes too. We had our backyard sprayed by the pest company, which I'm sure is toxic and terrible for it, but didn't seem to work this last time.
Yeah.
And also do that now that we have a garden.
Well, they didn't spray the whole yard
Yeah.
because of the garden.
Yeah.
I told them not to.
Yeah. So that's probably why it wasn't. It seemed to do well last year, but it's also too, you wonder, okay, how much toxicity, the trade-off of life, I guess.
Really toxic.
Yeah.
People are going to get mad at us now.
I mean, they're mad anyway. So. Is CJC, IPA, NODAC even worth it, or just go with GH? I mean, if I'm being straight up with you, I'm always going to tell you GH is better. I can't make money off of, I don't make money off of saying that, like, you know, because you have to go through underground means to get GH, or you have to pay a lot for a prescription. Taylor and I actually have a prescription from our doctor for GH, but it is a little bit more expensive if you want to go that route. But it's not that CJC and IPA are not worth it. It's just that HGH, in my opinion, is superior to them. And so I would tell people, just do what you want to do. Some people much prefer the peptides to GH. The thing that's interesting about GH, and shout out to Jerry Smith from Optimize You, who's a chemical genius, and we were talking at the conference that we were at last weekend with him. I think what's interesting about, he brought a very interesting point up to me that I had never thought. If you use like 1 IU of GH, basically through a variety of mechanisms, primarily via something called IGF binding protein 3, you can potentially get a higher free IGF-1. Meaning we don't really look at free IGF, but with HGH, think of like testosterone to HCG. Testosterone is going to raise your free testosterone more than HCG will. They potentially will both raise your total testosterone about the same, depending on the dose, but you're going to get higher free testosterone from the testosterone. And I think when we look at HGH2 and HGH peptide, it's very, very similar, because even if our IGF-1 levels are the same, let's say you took 1 milligram of tesamorelin and 2 IUs of HGH, those will probably both put your IGF-1 at like 300, which is good, right? However, the proportion of that IGF that is bound to IGF binding protein 3 is going to be higher with tesamorelin, meaning that we're getting higher free IGF from the HGH at that dose, which means that we can actually get better results with a lower amount of HGH, whereas the GH peptide, we're kind of just leaving that up to chance to like how much is free and how much is bound. And so while the GH peptide will work, I think you're getting higher free IGF from the HGH, which also allows you to control more of like, how much do you want? Do you want 1 IU? Do you want 2 IUs? Do you want 3 IUs, to where you land for being therapeutic? Any thoughts on that?
No, I agree.
Sean says, can the Axion group use AI tool? Anyone can. So if you're in the Axion group, you can obviously use it, but anyone can. You don't have to be in the group to use it. Kim says, great answers. Yeah, and it has a tool too, where it like references you to whatever video or was that was talked about. Can we talk about the best stack to take while taking a break from Retta? I think if you were to take a break from Retta, you can, let's say you're taking a break from Retta and you don't want a GLP in it. I would say the best thing you could probably do just to maintain where you're going is, obviously, if you have the foundation, so hormones, thyroid, a GH peptide, those will help a lot. Potentially MOTS-C would be really good. And then something like a BAM15, an SLU PP332, you could use them both together if you wanted to. I really like albuterol on and off before cardio. Something
Injectable 5-amino.
injectable 5-amino would be spectacular
Mm-hmm.
for that. Probably that would be like one of the first ones, actually. Maybe the first one.
Yeah.
And then cardarine would be good, like 10 milligrams of cardarine, 4 weeks on, 4 weeks off. That's like 5 things right there that will really, if you took 8 weeks off, but you use those instead of a GLP, I think you're going to continue the momentum. And then you come back to the GLP after, resensitize yourself, and you'll be well on your way. And that's the cool thing is we have a lot of this stuff now that, we didn't have maybe 5 or 10 years ago. Echo 6, I am sorry to hear that he chopped the tip of his finger off. Any peptides? I mean, there's obviously not any peptides that I know of that will regrow the finger. Maybe one day we get to that, but I will say that I would use probably Clo to help with the recovery around like where the cut was. And then if you got some like transdermal KPV, some transdermal GHK, that would probably help a lot too at the site there that you could apply, because it's going to be hard to like inject right near a finger.
Yeah.
Especially if it's injured. But
I would possibly even use like L37, just do a sub-Q injection of that just to help with like any kind of infection.
Mm-hmm.
Which I mean, you probably, you could do an antibiotic, obviously, which is probably what a medical provider is going to give you, but I would do that.
I was talking with a friend this week.
Well, what about like what if you did like, instead of doing Clo, what if they did just like 2 milligrams of TB500?
That would be very good in this case. I would say this would be a case for high dose TB500.
Yeah, high dose TB500
systemically to help with stem cell migration to the area.
Yeah,
that would be a good case for the higher dose TB500 for sure.
I personally would do that.
Yeah,
I wouldn't do the Clo.
You wouldn't do?
No, I don't like GHK. I don't like injecting it, so that's why I wouldn't do it. But I think, I don't know, I just feel like I've had such good effects using high dose TB500 for like injury recovery. I think it's been the most beneficial and gotten the most relief and the quickest healing with it.
I know this is out there. We should really start to push more manufacturers to make BPC, TB500, and KPV together without the GHK.
I agree with that.
Because that is a wonder stack. And like you said, sometimes, and especially in the case of a injury like that, the GHK is good, but then it also too can make the pain worse if you're injecting near that. Current nighttime wellness routines, peptide supplements, and other things you guys do to optimize sleep. I mean, I'll just tell you what I take before bed. Around 1 gram of magnesium, of a magnesium blend. I really like a company called OptiURX that has a magnesium blend that's really good. I like the formulation of that. So I'll take like 8 of those capsules. It ends up being around 1 gram. And then personally, what I take before, so I've got my magnesium. I'll do 2 IUs of growth hormone, and then I will take 500 milligrams of metformin. That's the one time of the day I take metformin right before bed. And I will do 3 milligrams of low-dose naltrexone. And usually, I mean, I'm very active, work very hard, always do my best to get an hour or 2 of sunlight per day. And so usually by 10 o'clock, Taylor will tell you I am out cold, especially after I take my supplements.
Asking Hunter any advice on sleep, I just feel like it's just not fair, because Hunter would probably sleep through a tornado.
Yeah,
like Hunter has no issues. Like,
yeah, and
I struggle more with sleep than you do.
Yeah, I don't fall asleep like during the day. Like I'm not like a sleepy, like, oh, I didn't get sleep. But when it comes time to, like, I'm one of those that's like go through during the day, and when it's time to go to bed, I'm like out.
Yeah, and if he doesn't get like a good, like at least 7 hours, like of sleep, it's not fun to be around him.
My personality is fundamentally different if I don't get 7 hours of sleep.
Yeah,
unfortunately. Yeah, but and I know some people can't afford. Like some people only sleep 5 hours a night, either because they can't or they just can't because of their schedule or whatever. Fortunately, I'm blessed to do that, but I've always been someone that I am much more on the side of sleeping more, but it makes me a better person for sure if I get at least 7 hours. I'm usually like 7.5 hours is what I get, but we usually go to bed 10:30, 11, and I'm up by 6:30 usually on most days. So I will say for us, one thing we have been really good about lately is having the same sleep wake time every day, regardless if it's a weekday or weekend.
Mhm.
getting up within the same 30-ish minute window, even when we're traveling, even when we're doing that stuff, that does help a lot with sleep.
Yeah.
Because something that I think people don't realize is like when, let's say you stay up really late, like on a Friday or Saturday, and then you try to get back to a Sunday, like that one time of staying up past your normal bedtime, whatever it is, can wreck you for like 3 or 4 more days to get back into your routine.
Yeah.
After my sleep, I also journal every night before I go to bed. I think mentally that helps me a lot. What I do is very simple, doesn't take long, takes me maybe like 2 minutes, is I write what I did good for the day, what I could have done better, any lesson that I learned, just like a one-liner lesson that I learned from the day, and then I just write the emotional states that I want to experience the next day when I get up, and that's it. But
Yeah.
that helps me.
Yeah.
Anything
Supplement wise, I do the same as Hunter, except for if I need to, I'll do a rotation of DSEP, or I really like a Dreamcatcher spray from a company I can't mention on here now, but it
Yeah.
has melatonin, DSEP. What else is in that spray? I can't.
GABA
I like
and
using that.
progesterone.
And progesterone.
Yeah.
Progesterone makes a big difference as well too. And then I do think MK777 does help with deeper sleep when I do cycle that in. And then if needed, I do about anywhere between 200 to 600 milligrams of L-theanine.
Yeah. The one thing I did mention, typically I take pregnenolone, but actually what I've been doing lately is injecting allopregnenolone caparate. And so I do that on the same days I take my testosterone in the morning. And that I think is even better than taking the oral pregnenolone. But if I didn't have that, I would probably be taking, that's typically what I do, but I've been injecting it and that works really well. Best peptides or supplements for endurance. Cardarine is going to be just the gold standard, I think, of endurance. Obviously, MOTS-C can be very beneficial too. Even just 10 milligrams of Cardarine and 1 milligram of MOTS-C, I mean, man, your endurance would be through the roof. SLU could be beneficial too. If you had SLU, Cardarine, and MOTS-C right there, that would be like endurance to the roof.
Yeah.
Also, too, if you have injectable ATP, if you go to a site that sells aminos online, injectable ATP and injectable AMP, L-carnitine are really good for that too. Dada could be great. I forgot Dada.
Dada's great.
Amazing product. What's up, Honeycomb? Good to see you too. Katie has the best sourdough bread I have ever tasted in my entire life. Katie, I've been meaning to message you in the group because Katie has a micro bakery and she sent us some of her sourdough bread. Oh my goodness. I love sourdough bread and people tell me like, you know, maybe it's not the best thing for you. I don't care.
Sourdough bread, because it's
sourdough bread
fermented, it actually is.
Yeah, and it also has like almost
beneficial.
no gluten compared to regular bread. It has like 99% less gluten. Man, check her out. Katie, I don't know if you want to put your website, if you have a place where people can order, please do that in the chat and also too in the group. But oh my goodness, that bread is like heaven. Taylor makes good bread, but honestly,
it was not as good as Katie's. No.
Not as good.
No.
So man, that stuff was so good. We made grass-fed burgers last night on the grill and used the bread as like a bun for it. Oh, it's so good. It was like melt in your mouth.
Yeah. So sourdough is not bad for you because it's fermented.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's not.
I don't know. Even if it was, I was still going to eat it.
Grains are not bad for you.
Yeah. I mean,
the grains are not bad for you.
Depending on the person. I think what happens is people trigger their immune system so that like it becomes that. But if they had access to some of the tools to get their immune system back into balance, they could eat, you know, a lot of those. But even with sourdough, like I said, even if someone has a gluten allergy, it's like 99% less. But man, that stuff, oh my goodness. Katie,
do you think people really have a gluten allergy? Or do you really think it's more so glyphosate? And
I think there are people that definitely have celiac disease. I think probably.
Or do you think it's more so triggered because of the like chemically how everything has been treated? Because I know people that have celiac and they can go to Europe and eat gluten bread, pasta, and they're fine.
Yeah. I think there's people probably like, I think it's a lot smaller than the people that claim they have gluten intolerance. But I think it was like 2004, 2007, they started allowing them to spray glyphosate directly on the wheat, whatever, like when it was harvested.
Yeah.
And that created a lot of issues. And you saw this explosion in gluten intolerance around the same time that happened. And so, yes, I do think it is mostly it's the glyphosate intolerance, not necessarily the gluten intolerance. But then it's like, well, if it is that case, then that person's not going to do well with it, But I know from like eating, because like you make organic bread like Katie's is obviously like very healthy, clean sourdough. That doesn't ever bother me. Although I will say, before I had access to like all the peptides and tools and stuff, I used to have like gluten. Like gluten used to bother me. I'd get bloated and stuff from it. But again, was it the gluten or the fact that it was glyphosate?
Yeah. I agree.
It's probably a little bit of both, but Shinna says TRT 20 milligrams spread out. I'm okay with symptoms. I deal with hair, etc. Except one, possibly my concern, loud scream voice is gone, like barely there. My question is, will it get worse over time, even though it won't go up?
You could try using oxytocin for vocal cord like recovery.
I've heard of
I would do an
people
injection
helping.
if you can handle it. That's I have been told several people have done that.
Yeah. I would say that's not completely, it's rare, but not like, I've heard of other people having that for women with testosterone. Is just kind of changes the pitch of their voice, and it's not the same. And I mean, I know it's kind of one of those things, like there's no free lunch, so there's always gonna be like a little bit, even though, but the question is like, is it healthier to have a little bit of that and then not have testosterone?
I know my voice has changed.
Yeah. You still have a feminine voice.
Yeah.
It's not like you have a man voice or anything.
Yeah.
But thank you, Heather. You are far too kind. But yes, I am leaning towards, obviously, and will be very selective when it comes to guests. Is it true that there is no more there's no more Retta being sold that is actually just TERS and just relabeled?
I don't think that's true.
No,
that's not true.
That's not true. But I mean, whoever out there is saying that, God love them. Thank you, Wendy, for that. Yes, can always sharpen interviewing skills. I agree. Life is lessons and learning is fun. And every day is just an opportunity to get better and better and better and help more people. Angie says, I find GH Peps before bed affect my sleep. Thoughts on doing fasted right after strength training and morning fast? Is it beneficial to split across a day or increase dose once a day? I would say if people struggle with the GH peptides before sleep, probably like 10% of people like this, I would just move them to the morning. So you do the morning fasted. You could do, I don't like fasted weight training. And so I would try to do like the morning fasted and then maybe wait an hour and a half, then eat and then train if you could. But yes, there's no problem, especially with the peptides, of changing those to do in the morning. It's really one of those things, you just take them. Probably better at night, physiologically speaking, but just take them and you'll be fine. There you go. Cheech says they're doing their cardio right now. You could even listen to us while you're doing cardio. Jacqueline says, with cardio, do you think zone 2 cardio or intervals are better to get rid of belly fat? I would say both. Yeah, I would say your zone 2 is more of like what you would do every day. And then your intervals could be like 2 or 3 times a week. Echo says he would come on the podcast. I would actually lean more towards just talking to people in my audience, because I think we would learn more. I think the audience would learn more from talking to people that are just
more like-minded people.
Yeah, it's more like-minded people. More relatable. It's more of like a talk radio style of just talking to people that are in it, rather than someone that has an agenda.
Yeah.
That's not even related to like the content that we talk about. So I agree, Echo. Wendy says, I find that people I work with, whether on GLPs or not, benefit from calorie and carb cycling. I agree. I think there's times for higher carbs and lower carbs. Like I like to view carbs as the lever, meaning that if I'm in more of a push to grow muscle phase, that's the one thing I bring up. And if I want to lose weight, that would be the one thing that I bring down. Shanna says, why is Maz better for liver fat? I mean, it's not necessarily better than retatrutide, but it has the glucagon component.
See, I would argue that it would be better because higher glucagon is going to be better for liver fat.
Relative
Yeah, but you're gonna get more glucagon with Maz than you are with Retta.
Milligram for milligram, yes. But I would say from the clinical trial data, Retta is still superior. And that's probably
So there's no clinical trials with Mazdutide yet.
it's actually approved in China. And so there's a lot of clinical data around it.
Mhm.
Mazdutide is really good for liver fat, but Retta still like on a percentage
But
basis.
why would it be better if more glucagon is going to be better for liver fat?
It's not okay. So let's just take this is a good thought experiment. Let's take 2 milligrams of Retta and 2 milligrams of Mazdutide.
Mm-hmm.
Retta, from what we can tell, is like 20% GLP, 20% glucagon, and then 60% GIP.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Mazdutide, from what we can tell, and this is in the literature, who knows? In the literature, it says it's half and half, meaning half GLP, half glucagon.
Mm-hmm.
And so you got 2 milligrams of each. 1 milligram of the Mazdutide would be glucagon,
Mm-hmm.
but about 0.4 milligrams of the Retta would be glucagon. However, when you look at Retta, if you were getting greater weight loss from the Retta, because you will get greater weight loss from the Retta than the Mazdutide milligram for milligram, that potentially is having more of an outsized effect on the liver than the Mazdutide. Does that make sense? And so because Retta is causing more weight loss, although both of them are working on the liver, people are getting more liver fat removed from the Retta because they are losing more weight. You have people losing 19% of their body weight on Maz for the same dose compared to 30% on Retta at the same dose. That 11% gap in how much weight loss they have is potentially causing more liver fat to come off, even though Mazdutide is still causing liver fat reduction. Whereas tirzepatide, you don't really have.
Would there be a
that
way
as
to
much.
just measure the liver fat?
Yes, you can do an MRI or a fibro scan on your liver to see how much liver fat you have. And that's what they do in the trials to measure that. But what I'm saying is that I've heard from the data, it's going to be different for each person, but from the data, retatrutide is still going to have superior results. It's not that Mazdutide is bad, but Retta still seems to be superior.
Okay.
What? Taylor is going to stab me right now if she could.
It's just well, never mind.
I understand that's confusing because if you look at it,
talked about this and said that like Maz would be better for liver fat, and now
I mean, it depends on the person. What you could say is that lower doses of milligram, a lower dose of Mazdutide, longer term probably could get you about the same or as good results for liver fat. But when you look at people that have fatty liver disease, Retta is still superior in the percentage of the liver fat that it removes.
Okay.
But it's
that's just different from like previous conversations that we've had.
I think what you're doing is we're talking about like tirzepatide in the same equation. And so like Mazdutide is going to be far superior for liver fat for that. But when we look at I'm just telling you what like the data says, because I've read it, is that Retta is still superior in that instance. But I mean, those people are on 8 to 12 milligrams of retatrutide. Now in Mazdutide, they're still on 8 milligrams of Mazdutide, but there's still a greater effect from the Retta. And what I'm saying that my estimation is that would be from the increase in weight loss because people are losing more weight on retatrutide than on Mazdutide for the same milligrams that they're doing. But I mean, at the end of the day, both of them are good. And obviously, like both of them would behoove someone to lose fat on their liver. Yes, Ninja Master, Maz and survodutide lack the GLP part and are milder in some sides. I will say of all the clinical data that you can look at, Mazdutide has the lowest dropout rate and the lowest profile or side effect profile. What's interesting on retatrutide is that at 4 milligrams of retatrutide, you have more people drop out from placebo than 4 milligrams of retatrutide, which is interesting. The side effects at 4 milligrams of Retta seem to be pretty tolerable once someone builds up to that when they're on it long term. More people dropped out from placebo. Now, did the people drop out from placebo because they realized it wasn't working? You're going to know if you're taking the peptide or not.
Yeah.
Like if you're not losing weight, you're going to know like, okay, I'm getting the placebo shot. So that's kind of a question. It's like, but it's interesting that there were less people that dropped out on the peptide than on the placebo, which is usually not the case when you look at clinical trials. Great work, Debbie. She says she's been on Reddit for 10 weeks and lost 18 pounds. Congrats. Keep up the good work. I don't know anything about lepto-3GR. I don't even know what that is. I'm not sure if that's something that's in the research world yet. Ninja says, I was watching Taylor's content on TRT for women. A really interesting approach. I mean, I will say, obviously, we have the content that we put out, but most of that is based or rooted in philosophy from some of the best doctors in the world that we've worked with and learned under. Sean says, is there a way to allow companies to do a quick 15-minute video about their product and you post on Axiom rather than a podcast with everyone, but you're still able to help companies or products you like? I mean, I'm sure there could. I don't know if I'd want to just limit that to the, a few hundred people that are in the group, if you're trying to help the most people with it. But what I definitely don't want to do in the group is bring people to interview in the group.
No.
Because that's that is to me, that is a glaring lack of responsibility for the people that I created the group for, that joined it to get coaching from us.
Yeah. And
when you have a group and all you're doing is interviewing people in the group, to me, that's like, why would you even join a group then? Because they obviously joined for the education material that's in there.
Yeah.
And the library of material, because now we have over like 60 hours of training material on topics that are not publicly available, that are accessible to people in the group in a library format that they can have. But if I were to do that, I'd probably do it more publicly and just say, hey, I really like this product, hey, I really like this coffee. You should check them out, just because I want to help those other people, because it's a product that I like. What would be a good starting dose for ARE290? You could start at 1 milligram. In the clinical trials, they ran 4 milligrams for 30 days. So I think for more severe cases, neuropathy, nerve issues, you could get up to 4 milligrams. But starting, I know a lot of people that get really good results at like 1 to 2 milligrams per day there. I've always used backwater with ARE290. Some people claim that they get a gel effect if they use backwater. And so you could always, there's a product called phosphate buffered saline solution. You can get off Amazon and from research sites, PBS, phosphate buffered saline solution, that you can get. That works well with ARE290 from what I hear. Let's see. Rusty says, my sister-in-law asks if she can take tirzepatide if she's taking pregabalin and amitriptyline. I don't know what those are. Rusty, I don't know on that one. I mean, tirzepatide is usually okay with most medications, but specifically in this case, I don't know what those are. I don't know how they work. And so I would just do research and ask your doctor about it if she's working with a doctor that's giving her tirzepatide. Oh boy, here we go. This is a setup for me to go on a diatribe. Thank you, Wendy, for asking this question. I think this would be beneficial. My husband started TRT at 100 milligrams, I'm guessing per week. And his first lab, his testosterone was lower. Go figure. They added enclomiphene and he had a big jump. Would it be better to just do enclomiphene since that's when he got results? Absolutely not. Okay. This is, again, to go to the philosophy of testosterone that we have learned from the smartest doctors in the world and from working with a lot of people and experimenting on ourselves. This is like the biggest travesty one of the biggest travesties in the testosterone world. And I'm seeing this more and more and more and more again, because you have doctors that either don't know what they're doing or they are treating people to be within a lab range because that's what they want to do, because that's what the medical boards want them to do and whatnot. Okay, let's look at this conceptually. When you introduce testosterone to a man, at a certain point, might be a month, might be 3 months, might be 6 months, his natural production is going to shut down. His body will no longer start to make testosterone. Depending on his age, I actually see more men in the 50 plus age group or 60 plus age group. They actually have higher natural testosterone levels than men under 40. And it's because men under 40, when they were born, they were exposed so much more to environmental contaminant, toxins, plastics, whatever. Naturally, the population is moving to have lower and lower testosterone levels from the get-go. Okay, you take a guy, I don't know, Wendy, how old your husband is. Take a guy, let's say he's 60, his total testosterone is 500 or 600. He knows it can be optimized. And then you have the doctor, oh, we're going to put you on 100 milligrams of testosterone. What is going to happen now is that his body is going to stop making that total 500 testosterone. And it's going to go, okay, I'm getting exogenous testosterone. Now I'm going to stop making it. And you're getting 100 milligrams of testosterone. Well, guess what? That's probably going to put your levels about at 300, 400, 500, depending on the guy. And so to me, this is just the biggest medical malpractice because you were literally making a guy worse off than before. And even worse, they're like, oh, we'll give you enclomiphene now because we get a little bit more money from enclomiphene rather than giving you 200 milligrams of testosterone per week. And they give enclomiphene, which will raise your total testosterone levels. It will not do anything for your free testosterone levels. And we know from long-term use, a lot of guys have vision issues from enclomiphene, and that's shown in data. And I don't think enclomiphene is a long-term solution like HCG, but guess what? It's illegal for a lot of compounding pharmacies to make HCG, so they're not going to give you HCG, which would be the long-term solution, not enclomiphene. And so you have this conundrum here where if the doctor would have just given him 200 milligrams of testosterone per week to start, his levels likely would have been perfect. He likely would have needed nothing else other than the 200 milligrams of testosterone per week, maybe some HCG on top of it just for testicular function and to have a little bit more testicular fullness if that's an issue for him. And he'd be well on his way. But guess what? Doctors don't do that. And this, it really gets, you probably get till I get like fired up about this because it's literally you are making a guy worse off than before. And guess what? If you give him 200 milligrams of testosterone per week and it's too much for whatever reason, you can always pull it down. But if you give a guy 100, then you don't know now. Now it's like, okay, we've lowered the testosterone from what it was before. What do we do now? Do we go to 120? Do we go to 150? Do we double it to 200? I would just say start taking 200 milligrams per week. But again, any good doctor would never do this to someone because they understand for most guys, 200 milligrams is like the therapeutic dose that they need. And some guys like 150. Like if they want to do 150 or 160 per week, there's nothing wrong with that. Like they might do better there than 200, and that's totally fine. But there's clinical data to suggest that up to 600 milligrams per week of testosterone in men actually has only positive benefit with no negative benefit. And so the point being is like, we don't really know what the actual dose of testosterone that is the perfect dose for men. I feel the best, if I'm being honest, on 350 milligrams of testosterone per week. But maybe that's just me. You know, not every guy is going to be that. Am I going to run that long term? No. Like I'll just stay on 200 because my levels are fine and I feel fine at 200. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you I don't feel better at 350. Like it feels really good. And so it's just, again, one of those things that we will see this. There will be more and more and more doctors coming into the scene, more and more clinics, more and more of people getting into this of testosterone therapy. It's the largest growth market alongside peptides that we probably see in the healthcare world today. And you're going to have problems like this, and you're going to have people that are getting quacked like this. So I will step now off of my soapbox and we can move on. But any thoughts on that?
No, you're good. You covered it.
Yeah. It's really sad though, because this is like a chronic issue amongst prescribers to do. And having just been at a conference last week where we spoke for doctors and learned from doctors at the conference, like none of them are going to do this to people because they understand what's going on there. Terry says, any peptide recommendations for tennis elbow? I really like, Cardilax would be good. Obviously, the BPC TB500 would be good, but I would really like Cardilax and KPV as well. And obviously, too, when it comes to tennis elbow, that's like a repetitive use thing. So sometimes you're just going to have to take a break from doing it. Same thing with golf. You know, like if you're golfing, like, and you keep repeating the same non-natural movements that are making the injury or the soreness worse, you will have to take a break. So I would take a break, get on the peptides, and then you can kind of use them as needed. Debbie says, been on Reddit for 10 weeks, lost 18 pounds. I'm a slow loser. I'm on 3.5 milligrams per week. With the bridge program coming up that I will qualify for, what are thoughts? Switching to tirzepatide. I think everyone, like I said, can get the same or as good of results on tirzepatide as they can retatrutide. It might not happen as fast, but Debbie, I'll just say this. Don't think that 18 pounds in 10 weeks is a slow loser. I would actually rather, I don't know how much weight you're attempting to lose, but I would rather have someone lose 1-2 pounds per week max over a long period of time rather than just try to lose 50 pounds in 2 or 3 months, because you're going to have a blowback on the body to like where the body is going to have a response that was in starvation mode, and it will start to have a lot of things shut down. And so I wouldn't even say that that's a loser or a slow loser if you're that case. I would say that's like actually a fast loser. I would say like you're right on track, maybe even a little bit faster than I would say is going to be healthy. I think that's good. But in terms of switching to tirzepatide, what I would probably do if you're on 3.5 milligrams a week of Retta, start on 2.5 milligrams of tirzepatide. It'll probably be fine for you, and then you can go up as needed. But if you're progressing at that rate, you probably don't need to go up as fast as a doctor would recommend, which is like every 4 weeks. Like you'd probably be fine to sit in like the 2.5 to 4 milligram range for a while and just keep going. But if your hormones are dialed in and you're exercising everything, you can stay on those lower doses, and the peptide will propel you very well over the course of a year. Yeah, Ninja. Yeah, tier 2. It doesn't make much sense again. Lately, I've been doing good with just fat and protein. I try to avoid carbs 12 hours after an HGH pen. Almonds, hard-boiled egg with supplements before gym, and I feel good. I mean, if that's personally not what I would do, but if that works for you, like again, diet's so variable to different people, and we all have different genetics and different
I would
microbiomes.
just say like be mindful if you're not supplementing with desiccated thyroid or MP thyroid, like I would definitely start doing that just because thyroid function, carbohydrates, like body needs that. Your thyroid's going to function better when you have some form of carbohydrates. So, which I think everybody needs to be on MP, desiccated thyroid, like in general, but really important to do that if that's a diet that you're following.
Yeah.
Because without it, you're going to crash that thyroid. Because I've been there and I've done that.
Yeah. It's
with doing that diet.
To the point about the body just always having a mechanism, it's always going to adapt. And if you're restricting calories, it's going to adapt to that new calorie. And that's where you'll see a lot of the thyroid shut down.
Yeah.
And that's why carbohydrates.
I think doing it like in cycles, like if you want to do that for a cycle, like for a little bit, I wouldn't like stay on that.
Yeah.
Like for life.
Jacqueline says, I've been pinning 5 milligrams of GHK every day. Is this too high? And how long can I do this for? I've been getting mild headaches this past week. I'm wondering if the dose is causing them. I mean, maybe it is, but when you look at the copper toxicity, it's much, much higher than that if you're using like allometric scaling from rodent models or whatever. But I don't think it's too high. I would say like in some cases it might be uncomfortable. And so maybe it's causing headaches because of a blood pressure change, which could be a potential thing that's coming from that. I just would ask, like, what would be the point of doing 5 over 2? Because I don't know that there's that much benefit of doing 5 milligrams versus 2 milligrams. I mean, if there is, then I don't see an issue with that. But I would just say for me, I feel like I would be wasting money if I was doing that high of a dose. Jim says, for weightlifting, does a reverse pyramid protocol work better than starting at, I think he meant lower weight, increasing weight each set? I mean, it depends. I typically like to do a warm-up set, and then typically what I'll do is like 60-ish to 70% of my 1 rep max. I'm doing that 15 to 20 reps to failure in there. Failure with like perfect form, not like complete failure. But I mean, there's debate on that. I think it's good to change it up.
Yeah.
You could do a reverse pyramid 1 week or for 2 weeks, then go back to increasing the weight each set.
I think it's better to do 6 weeks rather than like.
You could do that too.
Weeks.
Yeah,
I
like a
think it's
periodization.
Yeah, I think 6 weeks is a better time frame, and then change it.
Yeah, that's interesting. I was just thinking about like how much. I wouldn't say maybe knowledge is the right or wrong word. Just information we have around training, but not a lot of people necessarily crave that information
from us. No.
From us, but
no.
I've written books and had like whole programs and everything, but I think it's one of those things now. It's like the information is free. Like you don't need to pay someone.
We don't talk about it, and we don't showcase it as much. And that content is very saturated in the social media.
Well, anytime we've posted stuff like that, people are like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, just like, okay. I mean,
yeah.
I like what I do. I'm not someone that like, I don't desire necessarily to like post my workout videos for people, you know. People wanted that, I would do it, but I like the type of content I make, is what I'm saying.
You do not like a camera in the gym, like filming, because it takes away from like the flow of the workout for you.
I think
I think if you did, you have to have somebody like you'd have to hire someone to come in and just strictly be filming you, not me
Yeah.
or you messing with the camera because
Oh,
it just you get super annoyed.
yeah. Well, it's also, I think if I'm like preparing myself mentally going into that, like I know okay, today I'm filming myself working out, so like I'm
Mhm.
prepared. But it's like if my workout is like sacred, and it's like if that gets thrown off because I'm like trying to like move the lighting or the camera or whatever.
Yeah.
So like you said, it'd be better if we were doing that, we would hire someone to film us
Yeah.
doing it that would take care of all those things. But is it worth, like, do people really want to see that? I don't think so. I think they'd rather have peptide information,
Mhm.
which I like doing. But yeah. But there is, I mean, to the point, there's like so much of like, so that stuff is so important. And I think a lot of people just don't realize how important it is.
Mhm.
I know most people do, but there's just so much of that goes into it. What I would say is like, I'm always surprised when it comes to training stuff, because I've trained since I was 11 or 12 years old. How, like, I forget, like someone might be in their 40s and just starting lifting weights for the first time.
Mhm.
So they don't understand like the concepts, the body consciousness and everything that goes into it. Whereas to me, that's like second nature because I
Yeah.
grew up as an athlete and everything. Becca says, just thanks for your show, and topical KPV on those mosquito bites makes them completely itchless. I will have to try that. I didn't think of that, but we do have some topical KPV.
Yeah.
Oh, KPV into a spray bottle too. That'd be a good idea.
Yeah.
Never thought of that, but it's good. Maury, don't worry about it. Use the AI as much as you see fit, because the more people that use it, the better it like gets at training. Because like the more reps it takes, like the better it gets like accessing the database and everything. So don't feel like you can't use it as much as you want to. I'll take care of the cost, because there's ways that you can like shift the tokens around and use like different models that still get like the same outcome. It's just right now I had it like on the highest model, and I realized like for certain things, like it can, for certain queries, it doesn't need to use as much power to do the same thing, because it's pulling from a database rather than like pulling from like an internet source or anything like that, which consumes more power. So Donnie says, can you just take and quit enclomiphene? Should you do blood work if you want to take for a few months? I am roofer and just want extra help during crazy summer, so I don't want tests yet. Obviously, Donnie, I just have to, because that's what I do. Is like I would just say, what is your hesitation with testosterone? But then I would also say, yes, you can absolutely take enclomiphene and quit it. Like it's not like testosterone where you would come off of it and then all of a sudden it's like you're shut down naturally, and clomiphene doesn't have that. So yeah, you could definitely do that. But my question is always to guys like, what is your hesitation around testosterone? Because most of the times the hesitation is unfounded in my case. And I say that as someone that started testosterone at 27 and kind of went through all of that myself. Most guys that do testosterone, if they do it right and they go through it right, they never come off, because they get everything is taken care of. Like all the things that they think are going to be an issue are not an issue. Does BAM15 really eat at cancer like some people say? It will seem to do so. There is a substantial cohort of clinical literature that demonstrates that, and I have heard it anecdotally from people. Again, that's not something I really get into, because you paint a target on your back. But yeah, I will say, go down the rabbit hole. There's a lot of there, so to speak. Michael, I talked about the ARE290 a second ago. Hopefully you caught that. Ooh, Wendy says they have a company that has mosquito buckets that catch them. That would be cool. We live in an area where there's a lot of mosquitoes. I'm just going through. The Alchemist says, what is the best stack to improve sperm parameters for non-TRT users? Well, I would say it's going to be the same as if you were on TRT. But what I would do is 1,000 IUs of HCG 3 times per week. So 3,000 IUs of HCG. You don't have to start right away there, but that would be like the aggressive dose that I would do. And then 75 IUs of HMG 3 times per week. Or if you even wanted to be better, this is going to be expensive and you got to know how to source it. But you could get recombinant FSH, which is even stronger than HMG. And I would do that 75 IUs 3 times per week. So those are going to be like the big needle movers. And then the secondary things I would do is injectable L-carnitine, 600 milligrams or 500 milligrams 3 times per week. Injectable glutathione, 200 milligrams 2 to 3 times per week. And those will be the big things. And then potentially, if you wanted to, just for some extra backing, you could add in clomiphene, and you could do 25 milligrams of that 3 times per week, or 12.5 milligrams every day, whatever floats your boat. So that's what I would do for sperm parameters. And in most people, you give that like 3 to 6 months. It gets things going in the right direction, I will say. Especially the recombinant FSH is like the big one that does the best. Dina says, my husband had ongoing issues with a foot injury. He's done an 8-week protocol with Clo. Does he need a break, or can he keep using it since he's still healing? I always lean on the side of just using it until you're healed.
Completely healed.
Yeah.
Especially, yeah, that makes a big difference.
Yeah. Yeah, you might have to increase the dose beyond the 8-week period. Like you might not get the same results with the same dose after 8 weeks or so, but I would just keep using it until it's healed. Katie says, I ordered what was term pharma grade somatropin. Is there a ranking per se of GH or any to stay away from? This one seemed budget friendly and came from a trusted source, but this is my first run. I mean, I would say most of the ones out there are good. It's just there's a hierarchy in the sense that like there's generic HGH, which some can be as good as pharma GH, but some are not. And it's not that they're bad, like they're going to cause an issue. It's just that you'll probably have a little bit more of a side effect profile, like more swelling, more edema, more bloating, the less pure the generic GH is. But then there's obviously like the pharma grade versions, the genotropins, the synotropins, the norditropins of the world. That's what I stick to. I'm sure there's people out there that will call what they have pharma grade, but if it's not like from those manufacturers, it's hard to say. And then obviously if you're not getting it from a compounding pharmacy itself, then it wouldn't be pharma grade. Here's a good question too from Katie. She says it needs to be reconstituted. Can you discuss what would translate to 1 IU in the space? If not, you can ask in the group, or you can always ask in the group, Katie. But I'll say, so typically, like if you have a generic GH, or even in this case, which would be considered pharma, or if they're calling it pharma, it's like in a 10 IU bottle. So just think of like, it's no different than if you had milligrams. So if you had a 10 milligram bottle of something, you wanted 1 milligram, you'd put 1 milliliter of water and take 10 units. If you have a 10 IU bottle and you want 1 IU, you'd add 1 milliliter bacteriostatic water and take 10 units. And so you can really just replace IU with milligrams. The math is the same. If it's a 24 IU bottle and you wanted 2 IUs, you would add, what would that be? Well, that would be a bad example. Let's say it's 24. I'm trying to think of like even numbers that people would understand. Let's say it's a 20 IU bottle. You could add 2 mLs of water. It's 10 IUs per ml, and 10 units would be 1 IU. So the math is the same. You just replace the IU for milligrams, and it would be the same. Now, the milligrams, typically it's 0.3 milligrams is 1 IU. So 0.3 milligrams of HGH is 1 IU of HGH. Rusty says, I'm currently taking TERS, LDN, magnesium, multivitamins, Jardiance. Would adding ATX be okay?
Yes.
What do you think?
I think so.
A good stack.
It was a great stack. I mean, the only thing I would say, like, see how you feel with combining the HGH with, or I'm sorry, the ATX with Jardiance. Just make sure, like, if your blood pressure drops when combining them, maybe cut the Jardiance down to half of it.
Yeah, 12.5 milligrams.
12.5.
It's 25.
Yeah.
It's a question I will not claim to have an expert answer on, but we'll do our best. Dina says, what is your advice on raising ferritin levels for a pre-menopausal woman? I already take iron, bisglycinate, and lactoferrin every other day. It has moved a little.
Testosterone.
Yeah. The thing is with like, when you talk about like ferritin, iron, that could potentially be from anemia, which could be improved if you have testosterone, which will raise red blood cell count, which typically helps raise those levels. So it could be an anemia thing if you're not on testosterone, Dina, which I don't know if you are. John says expectations from going from 10 to 25 milligrams of Jardiance. Honestly, nothing potentially a little bit lower blood pressure.
Yeah.
But from a performance enhancement or a results enhancement, nothing. In my experience, they've been the same.
Yeah. I would say then Sean's more on the leaner fit side.
Yeah.
I would say probably 10 milligrams is going to be better for people that are more optimal and more fit.
Yeah. Shanna says metformin before bed. Is that an ideal time to take it? I mean,
Yes.
any time is fine, except for around a workout.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, it's fine. I mean, take it in the morning if you want to.
I like it at bedtime.
Yeah. Echo says 100-pound extra fat, 59-year-old female, thyroid ups and downs, major unresistant sweet tooth, knee replacement, SS31, KPV Wolverine, all pre-micro Cagri. Those are good. I don't see any issues with those. Obviously, I would consider the hormone optimization piece, especially for a 59-year-old. Usually that's a wreck for most 59-year-olds if they're not on hormone therapy.
I think it's going to be hard for that person to get hormone therapy from a doctor if they're 100 pounds overweight.
Yeah. I mean, it would be the best thing for
It'd be the
them,
best
but
thing for them, but I think they're going to have a challenging time getting that from a doctor.
yeah. I mean, it's hard enough getting it from a doctor anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I was reading about a stack called the Deadpool stack, which is BPC, TB500, and Cardilax. Can you remember thoughts? I didn't know that was called the Deadpool stack, but hey, I'm all for it. I think Cardilax is better than both of those. Obviously, you could use them all together.
I think
if you wanted
combining
to.
there, it's a really great feeling.
There's definitely like combining effect. And then I would add in KPV too. If you had all those with KPV, you will heal very fast. All right. Just going through. Yes, Katie's bread is awesome. What do you feel about 20-year-olds using GLPs? I have a 20-year-old daughter, and some of her friends are using them. I'm not sure it's a good thing since they're so young.
I think it's great.
I think it'd be great, especially for a female in that case. I mean, I think for a male too. It really depends on the, like, do they need it? And a lot of times the answer is yes. Like if they are overweight, then what is the alternative being overweight? I think obviously
even if they're not overweight, I think especially for females, I think it's going to be extremely beneficial because we see cases of PCOS like being higher now in women in their 20s. I think it's going to help with just like inflammatory, keeping those inflammations down. Let's be honest, 20-year-olds don't really typically have the best diet. So I think it's going to be beneficial for inflammatory purposes, just like even a microdose. And then if they are overweight, like I would say it's better to give them the GLP to help them lose weight because that's going to be more detrimental to their health is being overweight.
The real question.
But it's going to help with hormones. It's going to help with fibroids. A lot of 20-year-olds have that because of their diet.
The question is like, and I'm not saying you're saying this, Dina, but like someone would say like, oh, this is bad. All these, I've heard that there's like quote unquote an epidemic. I wouldn't call it an epidemic. I would call it probably a good thing. The epidemic would come in the lack of intelligent use of them. But on college campuses, like GLPs are everywhere on college campuses. To which I would say, well, if I think back to my college, and I went to a pretty conservative college as it goes, Wake Forest University, go Deeks. But there's you can't hit a rock without finding alcohol on a college campus. And so what's the alternative if we have them on GLPs or drinking alcohol? I'd say GLPs are going to be better in that case. Like I have much less worry about GLPs, even if it's used unintelligently, which would obviously not be the best thing versus like what the typical college experience is, which is alcohol galore.
But if like the college kids are using the GLPs and they're drinking, like they need to be like warned that they're going to get sick a lot easier from drinking. It's also going to make them more sensitive to alcohol. So their tolerance will change.
Yeah. Which hopefully would mean that they wouldn't, but then, your prefrontal cortex isn't developed. So 20-year-olds typically don't want to make the best decisions. No. But yeah, in terms of like using in younger people, I have no problem with it. I even think in the case of athletes, even for ones that are not trying to lose weight, I think even if it was like 250 micrograms or 500 micrograms a week, the athletes could stand to benefit. Like I know I dealt with so many like inflammatory gut issues as an athlete. Usually athletes have guts that have been destroyed because they're eating to try to keep up to like maintain their weights, stress levels, lack of sleep, everything. And I've actually been thinking a lot lately of like, man, if some of these like very high level athletes just had a microdose of a GLP, how much that could benefit them for performance. It's
going to keep their inflammation down too. And that's also going to put them in a lower risk or injury.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't know that will really catch on because you'll have like, oh, well, like I don't want it to like impair like performance. But then at the same time, I think the reduction in inflammation could be huge.
Yeah.
Devin says, I have the BioAmp ATX 100 milligram capsules, 100 milligram SLU capsules of MOTS with doses of each before I go hit cardio. Okay. 100 to 300 milligrams of ATX. That's where I would start. MOTS 1 milligram. I will put a warning on the 100 milligrams of SLU. Please do not do that right away if you've never used SLU. I don't ever take more than 500 to 750 micrograms of SLU. And so I'm not telling you what to do. I know people like the higher doses of SLU. I personally would advise against that. It never went well for me, and it didn't go well for a lot of people that I know. And so just be careful. I think you can get all the results you need at like 250 to 750 micrograms of SLU, especially if you're using those other products. And so do what you want to do, Devin, but I'm just telling you my experience. Like, I've seen it not go well for people. And I'm not saying that like it can't work for some people. That's totally fine.
If you already have also like any kind of kidney issues going on, I would not take 100 milligrams of SLU.
Yeah. I would not. I've just seen it go bad.
Yeah.
For people. And even if you're doing the ATX and the MOTS, you don't really need it, to be honest. You could add it in just to help, but I err on the side of caution because right now we don't know, and practically speaking, didn't go well for me, and that's all I can say about it. Thank you, Dina, for the kind words. East Coast says, sorry if this has been talked about. If visceral score is already a 1 with testosterone, still be preferred over CJC IPA. Or also, would there be any benefit to running IPA alone? I definitely think there would be benefit to running IPA alone. I think it depends on the person. So if it's like a leaner person, typically I think like Tessa makes them look a little bit more bloated, so they don't like it, especially if they have low visceral fat already. And then I think women like CJC and IPA better, especially like if they're a leaner profile, whereas if they have a lot of fat to lose, testosterone especially is usually better to reduce the visceral fat. And so I would say if it's a woman, start with IPA alone. Then you can add in CJC if you respond well to that and see how you like it. And then, you could play with testosterone, but I think most women do better there.
I agree.
Asher says, which doctors have you worked with and respect their knowledge that actually understand hormones for postmenopausal women? I mean, they're not like, a lot of the doctors are not ones that have like social media presences or following.
Yeah.
But I would say Neil Rousier, he created WorldLink Medical. He's definitely like one of the OGs in the hormone space.
Follow him separately from.
I guess so. I guess
there's some drama going on at WorldLink right now with him. Yeah. I don't know what's going on with that, but I would say Neil Rousier is definitely one of them. Personally, if you want to work with any doctor, so I'd say all the doctors that Optimize You, are all great doctors.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of like from a social media. I'll say like peptide wise, this would be less.
Lauren Fitzgerald.
Lauren Fitzgerald is an amazing one.
Yeah.
She's like, her knowledge is superb.
Yeah.
She also, you can tell like she lives a life like very fit, very active. Like she practices what she preaches.
Yeah.
Trying to think of who else like that. Obviously, Dr. Elizabeth Yurth is one of the best, especially around peptide stuff. Every time I hear her talk about peptides, it's like she is a wealth of knowledge around peptides.
Yeah.
Doctor wise. I mean, there's a lot that we know, but they're like, are not public people.
Yeah.
They're like, even if you told them, what to do. Dr. Scott Howell is another one. Yeah. He's not really like a public person. I think he has a website that you can go to, but it's, they're out there. It's just a lot of them are not ones that you would see. Like there's so many doctors that are just, that's what they do. They're not social media people.
Yeah.
And thus we live in an age where sometimes the best person that we think is the best person is actually just the best person about talking about it online.
Yeah.
And they're not actually the best. They're just the best about talking about it online.
Yeah.
And especially when you look at a doctor, obviously like the best doctor is going to be entrenched in what they're doing. They're not going to be doing social media stuff. Yeah. And so that's kind of like where we live in the world today, where it's like, if you think someone's the best, they're really probably, including myself, they might just be better about talking about it online than actually like doing it, because those are two different things. Gary says, have you heard ARA 290 in a spray causing anxiety or edginess? I didn't even know it could work in a spray, and I've never used it in a spray. So all things are possible, I guess.
Yeah.
In that case, Gary. Donnie, HCG is human chorionic gonadotropin. It does help with energy and mood. It does boost testosterone. It's just going to be hard to get from a pharmacy. But HCG is like what you would use to maintain testicular function if you were on TRT, or some guys do HCG monotherapy to raise their testosterone levels, which will never be as good as testosterone, but it beats the heck out of clomiphene. That's for sure. It's just much more natural in how it works because it's working directly on the testicular cells. We were at the corporate retreat for a HRT franchise called Optimize You. I will say, like, doctor-wise, we learned from all of them. I wouldn't say there was one there that we learned like more or less from. It was all of them. What?
I got schooled by Jerry.
Well, yeah, Jerry Smith is the PA. That's one of the lead PAs for the
especially with like the
company.
whole year phase defect that we were talking about. That was
yeah.
I need to do more research on that.
I'd say we learned. He didn't school us, like he wasn't trying to school us.
I know he wasn't. Not like
we learned a lot from him because he's a wealth of knowledge.
It was a very positive.
Yeah. Jen in the house. She says, depending on the dose, amitriptyline, you can take GLPs combined. They can increase chances of constipation. Still verify with the provider. There you go.
Thanks, Jen.
That's why Jen is the trusty anchor co-host medical. She is the Axion Collective medical faculty. Hey, Diane. Glad to see you on live. What do I think the best peptide training certification out there is? Mine. You have to take mine. Oh, wait. I don't have one.
What?
Someone says, what is the best peptide training certification out there? SSRP, which would be...
Okay, sorry. I was confused.
Yeah. They're all good. I mean, like, I will tell you this, like, whatever you want, you will find it. So if you go searching for peptide certifications, there are people out there that will charge you for them. I'm sure most of them are good. I've done not necessarily certifications, but I've been to conferences and stuff. If it makes you feel better to take them, that's fine. I would maybe like eventually one day love to like build an education project or platform that like certifies people in peptides, but it wouldn't be me because I wouldn't claim to be the end all be all around peptide knowledge or even close to it. I would want to have a medical faculty that has like the best doctors that contribute to the education. But when you talk about this stuff, like anytime there's like a desperate need for education, like there will be people to fill that need and they'll take your money from it. But what's the best out there? I mean, who's to say? Like maybe for a doctor, SSRP is good. Like maybe a doctor doesn't like my education much because it's based in the research world, and that's fine. Like it's just whatever floats your boat. Like whatever. I think people should try. If you can afford it, you should try all of them. But I will tell you this: a lot of people, because I work with so many doctors and also people that are health coaches and whatever, I have no credentials, and I'm always very upfront. Like I was talking to doctors last weekend. I have no credentials. Like I have no medical training. I have no any of that, and I don't claim to be. And that's not like I never will claim to do that. I'm not a doctor. I don't have medical training. I don't have any of that. If there's anything good that I've done, it's just that I've talked about my own experience, and I can synthesize other people's experience into content that hopefully is helpful to them. But when we talk about like peptide training out there, there's going to be different modalities.
Do more reading and studying than most medical providers.
Well, I'm fortunate that
because you have the time to be able to do it.
Correct, because I'm not working with patients
one-on-one.
Patients
every day, one-on-one.
Yeah, I get the benefit of like I see like so much high level data from all of the people that follow us and are in our group and everything, that I think it informs what I can tell people and recommend to people. And obviously too, when it comes to the medical side of things, they're limited in what they can work with because they have to deal with their license and FDA and what's approved and what they can get from pharmacies and whatever. So, yeah, there's no, in my opinion, there's like no best. I think you should take as many as you can to get the most exposure to what's out there to learn as much as possible. And I always tell people like, don't listen just to me, like go learn from other people and, do what works best for you. But, when it comes to training stuff, there's a lot out there, and I'm sure there will continue to be more out there. But at the end of the day, what I was going to say is that like a lot of people, I think especially for like the health coaches, people, this is maybe more or less so from the doctors, because they have a license, they can go practice if they want to do peptides. They just got to have the ability to like get outside of like, if they work in a hospital system, to go out and do things on their own. You look at the health coach side of things, I talk to so many people and they want this like certification, or they want the stamp of approval to feel validated to go out into the world and be able to coach people with peptide stuff. And I never did any of that. And again, I'm not a doctor or anything, don't have certifications. But what I did do is I just started helping people, and then that becomes your resume. And a lot of people, if they're trying to get into this, they want to feel like that someone told them that it's okay to go out and do it. And we have lots of people inside of our private group. It's interesting to see the evolution of our private group to like where it's helping people, but like a lot of it now is actually like helping people that help other people. So we have a lot of people inside of our group that are coaching other people, and we're like helping them work through like how they would work with other people. And again, we're not practicing medicine. We're not doing that. We're just like talking about like how you would coach someone. But what I will tell you is like, no one is going to give you permission. So if you go to SSRP, if you go to A4M, if you go to wherever, like they're still not going to give you permission to go out and do it. You just have to do that yourself.
Yeah.
And so I would tell all those people, a lot of people get very hung up of like, oh, I'm not qualified. Like I have imposter syndrome, whatever, to be able to go out and help other people. And it's like, no one is going to do that for you. Like the only way to do that is to talk to people and go do it. It reminds me a lot of my days as a real estate agent. And I remember I was 23 years old starting in real estate, and the average age of a real estate agent is 55 years old. And so I was around a lot of people that were like 20 or 30 years older than me in the office working. And what I would see is they would do all of these things. They would do their website. They would get this 3-letter certification. They would go to this training course and whatever. And I was always like, what does that have to do with the price of tea in China? Like, what does this have to do with actually helping people? And what I did very aggressively, very fast, is I went out and I talked to as many people as I could. And I learned through trial of like how to actually help people, what I needed to do to be able to convey how I could help them. And then I learned the ins and outs of it. And then within 2 years, I had all these clients because I was so effective at communicating how to help people. They felt very secure in trusting me. But guess what? None of those 3-letter courses, none of the weekend courses, none of the extra things taught me that. It was just doing it over and over and over and over again at a high level. And I think that's where people get hung up, is like they feel like when it comes to peptide stuff, especially if you're just a coach and not a medical professional, that you have to have like this like permission from some governing body to go do it. And as it stands right now, like the best thing you can just do is talk to people and help solve their problem. I don't know what the upcoming bridge program is. It could be the Medicaid. I think there's maybe one of the GLPs is going to be on Medicaid or Medicare now.
Yeah.
That might have been what she was talking about. Yeah. Gary said someone else advised, started with 100 milligrams of testing clomiphene. Yeah. 200 milligrams, please. Just start there. You can always go back down, but you can really mess yourself up. Devin says, do I have any stack recommendations for male pattern baldness, general hair loss? I use 2% Ketocon shampoo every other day, RU 58841, daily AHQ nightly. I really like those things. What I would stay away from is finasteride. I get messages all the time of guys that took finasteride and they induce a personality or a psychological crisis in their lives because they're inhibiting DHT. And some people, it works for them. It's kind of funny now. There's like a big drama with like Trump having taken finasteride, which you like Trump or hate Trump, that'll explain a lot. So I would stay away from the finasteride. Minoxidil is like okay. Like I'm not the biggest fan of it, but I really like those things. You know,
red light therapy,
medical grade red light therapy.
If you get really good exosomes, they can work, but you have to be able to find like really good ones.
Yeah. Exosomes can be really beneficial too. I've heard from people.
And then it goes like into the scalp.
Yeah. Joel says, I'm hesitant to do the blood test because I have an inherited blood anemia called beta thalassemia, and my blood tests are off or appear different because of this. Unfortunately, I don't know on that one, so I don't want to say anything that's outside the bounds of what I don't know. Yeah, Wendy says he's 63 on 100 milligrams. 100 milligrams per day? Are you sure it was 100 milligrams per day unless it's cream, if that's what he's injecting? That would be a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, 1,500 total and 400 free is right where I like people to be. But 100 milligrams per day, that would actually be a lot. 700 milligrams per week. Probably feel really good. Rick says, can I take CJC up in the morning and test at night? You could. I really wouldn't need to. I would just like rotate in between them. Testosterone and heart disease not allowed. My doctor, is this correct? According to your doctor, is correct, but they're very factually wrong, and there's tons of data in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
Have you tried B7333 for fibrosis? What peptides recommend for cardiac fibrosis in the body? Have you heard about KP1? I've heard about KP1. It's really expensive. I've never used it, so I can't really speak to it. B733 is great. I would also use TB500. You'd use like 500 micrograms of B733. I would use like 1 to 2 milligrams per day of TB500, and those would be like my anti-fibrotic stack. That would be really good for that, and probably some SS31 too to just help with the heart tissue. Joel says, I walk 3 to 4 miles 5 days a week with 12-pound weight vests and 2-pound weight bands on each arm. I walk mid to fast. Is this enough cardio for me at 66 years? It probably is. I would just say, just measure your heart rate. And if your heart rate is like 120 to 140 beats per minute, then you're good. That's like what is going to be zone 2 cardio. So for most people, that would be enough. Like I know when I do my weight vest, it's a 40-pound weight vest. But like that is definitely enough to get my heart rate.
Yeah.
And I'm just walking a lot slower than I would normally walk with that weight vest on, and my heart rate gets up that high because it's so heavy. Dina says, I'm on testosterone, but as a cream, my serum levels are still low. Yep. And that's why I hate cream for women or men for that picture.
Yep. I agree with that.
Yeah. Have you seen or heard anyone that's taken 40 milligrams a day of SS31? I'm curious if significantly felt or have a better effect. Yeah, I haven't personally. Obviously, the clinical data is around people that are doing that. I think it's just one of those things like that becomes so cost prohibitive for people. You literally have to spend thousands just to do that for 1 month. You probably have to spend the neighborhood of like $5,000 to do that for 1 month at that dose. And so I haven't personally, but I know for me, I think the more mitochondrially optimized someone is, there is going to be a dose beyond to which it just doesn't matter. Maybe that's 5, maybe it's 10, maybe it's 15. But in my experience, I've gone as high as 10 milligrams a day, and I didn't notice any more benefit than like 2 to 5. Like it felt kind of the same. What is the best TERS dosing and frequency for someone using it not for weight loss, but to suppress food noise and reduce inflammation? I mean, it depends on the person, but I'd probably say like 0.5 milligram twice a week.
Yeah.
Like somewhere in there.
Yeah.
You know, it could be 0.5 milligram 3 times a week.
Yeah.
1.5, 1 to 2-ish milligrams.
1 to 2, yeah. Under 2.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. Most people would be under 2.
Yeah. I mean, some people get massive appetite suppression with that much.
Yeah.
But I would say for most people, is if they're on it for a while, you can take that dose. You won't have that much appetite suppression, but you'll still get all those other benefits. Yeah. Do women use injectable testosterone? Yes, they can and should. And I would throw those troches in the trash.
Yeah. Troches are not gonna do well. Especially if like someone's more androgen sensitive, like
it's even worse. Yeah.
It's gonna be even worse if you're more androgen sensitive. Like that's where like the acne can come into play with like the troches, and with the topical creams, you're gonna see more of that.
Yeah. Can anything be done for hyperthyroidism, Graves' disease using peptides? Not that I know of, to be honest. So you could try the thyroid bioregulators. I think Thyreogen is the name of it. So that would be the first thing I do, because those are modulators of tissue. And so for overactive thyroid, that would help bring it into balance. So that would be my only thing that I would say, like potentially, but that's not one. It's obviously a little bit more rare that you hear that as opposed to hypothyroid. And so I just don't know as much about it. Frank says, I adhere to a low-carb diet for the cognitive and mood benefits I've experienced from it. I'm interested in trying Retta, but read how it's critical to consume carbs with it. Is that true? I mean, I think it is. I mean, there's people that do fine on a low-carb diet with Retta. I think if you're not using carbs, you're probably leaving some on the table, because if you think about it, you're improving metabolic flexibility and metabolic efficiency, to which you would benefit from using the carbs because your body's now going to process them better. Yeah. And so what I would do, like if you like the low-carb diet for the mood and cognitive benefits, what I would do is you could do cyclical carbs. So you could have carbs just around your workout, or you could do fasting. So you could like fast for a certain part of time and then introduce carbs. So there's a lot of ways you can do it. I'm doing 1 milligram of Retta, trying to chisel for summer. Also MOTS-C, 1 milligram, 5 on 2 off, and CJC Ipotessa before bed. Can I quit Retta but no side effects, not seeing any extra leanness, just slow bowel movements. Yeah, at a low dose, you could probably just stop it right away. If you're on a higher dose, I'd probably recommend to titrate down. But yeah, I think you should be fine if it's that low of a dose. Can you speak more on the high dose SLU from a kidney perspective? If it negatively impacts kidney health with lower dosage, still pose negative side effects? Not in my experience, because I can use low dose and my blood work, my GFR and creatinine, everything's fine. Think about it like this. And this could be, I grant that this could be potentially wrong, but this is how I think about it. This is how it feels. This is what I've seen in practice. Taking high dose SLU is like putting your car in the garage with the door closed and turning the engine on and revving the gas. Eventually you will have so much exhaust build up because you're sitting and doing that you cause these issues to basically like where you're suffocating. And so it's not only kidney, it's just this whole host of oxidative stress that is now hammering the body that is causing issues. And as someone who has taken 400 milligrams a day for 2 weeks in a row, you get this metabolic fatigue and burnout. And so it feels very similar to if I had worked out for 6 hours a day, every day in a row. Like eventually your body is going to like beg you to stop. And think of how like people get rhabdomyolysis from, I'm not saying that you're going to get rhabdomyolysis from taking high dose SLU. What I am telling you is like rhabdomyolysis comes from when someone overtrains so much that the kidneys basically just shut down. And I have seen people's GFR drop from 90 to 60 after doing prolonged periods of high dose SLU. You also, again, whether or not that happens or not, it could be the person. Like it didn't specifically happen to me, but after doing high dose for 2 weeks, I felt brain fog, fatigue, again, like I had been overtraining. And so to each their own, some people, if you like, this is what I'm saying is like, if you want to do that and that's fine for you, like I have no issue with that, but I'm just telling you my experience and then like what can happen from what I've seen. I have an athlete that's been on Reddit for 2 years for bodybuilding. Her body is so effective after using this. In a nutshell, it now seems she can't live without it. Close to pin days, body soreness, sweat, etc. Trying to see if there was like another part of that. I mean, Reddit can be a miracle for bodybuilders, just a low dose.
Yeah.
Because they're bodybuilders are like doing everything right anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And so like they're the prime example of like how good it can be because they're doing so much right. Tommy says, hi from Albuquerque, just started test injections with my primary, was new to them too. So I'm the test doing 3 times weekly sub-Q injections, but not sure in dose, total T less than 12, free 0. Yeah, I mean, I would just have it, you could break those up into like 65 milligrams per shot and do it.
Put another question.
Was there like a second part of that?
But I saw, well, no, it's not there anymore. So I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Postmenopausal.
There we go. Female and postmenopausal to go. Oh, okay. So this is, sorry, Tommy, I thought it was a man. Yeah, I would say probably like 10-ish to 15 milligrams per week. So if you had like 2.5 to 5 milligrams per dose, I think that would be a good starting point to see how you feel.
Yeah, I would say don't go up too soon with that dosing though.
Yeah, just
like stay on that for like 4 weeks, see how you feel.
Yeah.
And then move up. A lot of women will move up after only like 1 or 2 weeks of being on it, and then they start getting negative side effects. You want to slowly reintroduce it back into your system because you haven't had any in so long, especially if you're postmenopausal.
Yeah. You definitely want to like slow down when you're introducing testosterone for a woman because like very small dose changes can have large effects. And as I always tell people, like the bad side effects are usually in the delta. So like the bad side effects are usually in the period of change. And it's like once the body has a chance to adapt, it usually does pretty well.
Do not change if it's been under 4 weeks.
Yeah. Recommendations for lack of motivation, brain fog, or low energy, have thyroid and hormones in place. 50-year-old female. Okay. So if you have lack of motivation, I mean, is it, like, is it more of like a brain derived thing, potentially in something like that? Like tesofensine increases dopamine. It can help with motivation.
I would also do, I would try doing KPV intranasally.
That could potentially help a lot with brain function.
With brain fog.
Yeah. KPV helps with so many things. If it's kind of one of those things like because this is like a very broad thing, like what is driving the issue? Mm-hmm. Potentially that could be a mitochondrial thing. So like
Yeah.
SS31 could be huge for that. Like if it's
Mhm.
mitochondrial dysfunction, assuming that the thyroid and the hormones are taken care of like we would recommend.
Mhm.
Is it like an underlying gut issue, that KPV and BPC, lorazepatide, and some of those things that can help? Or is it like a brain issue, that tesofensine would make better, or, P21 or PE2228 would do? And so there's a lot of ways you could approach that. I would just kind of ask, like, do you feel like what is it like a sleep issue? Because a lot of times you don't sleep enough or your sleep isn't deep enough. It could be a thing. So can you clarify, please, about desiccated thyroid and low carb? I was on Wegovy
Mhm.
for 2 months, but didn't lose any now. Switched to Zeptide, hoping it will help finally lose 50 pounds. So typically what happens is someone is on a very low carb diet for prolonged periods of time. The thyroid will begin to slow down.
Mhm.
And what will happen is if you are trying to lose weight and your thyroid is too slow and it's not keeping the metabolism up, you will stall out. And so no, there will be a point to like you can restrict all carbs and you will not lose weight anymore.
Mhm.
But typically what can happen is if you introduce carbs, it helps the thyroid. The thyroid is like, oh, we have energy now, we can burn this. And now I'm going to push through those plateaus because I have energy to burn, which
Mhm.
again speed the thyroid up.
Yeah.
And so this guy named Ray Peat, who there's like a lot of like mythical lore around his health content on the internet, actually had like this idea of like using foods that make the body hot. And carbs can make the body hot because they give you
Mhm.
energy, to which now the thyroid is functioning and
Yeah.
doing. And so that's what I mean by that is like eventually you see a lot of low carb people, they get like
Mhm.
hands cold, their like body's cold all the time. Like you
Mhm.
want at that point, like the body's too cold, you need to burn hot. And like
Yeah.
the carbs can help kickstart that
Yeah.
to be the gas in the tank.
Yeah.
Where do I personally source my SGLT2? Very interested in trying to source my LDN from AgisRx, but they only carry Brenzavvy. I think Brenzavvy is fine. It doesn't seem like there's that much difference between all of them.
Mhm.
Brenzavvy is a lot cheaper, but now Farxiga,
Mhm.
you're going to have to go through the rigmarole to get it. But if you can get a prescription from your doctor, Farxiga is $30 a month without insurance.
Yeah.
So you can get Farxiga through Trump RX, which then goes to AstraZeneca, which is then fulfilled by Aspen Pharmacies.
Mhm.
And Taylor and I both get now Farxiga for $30 a month because it's a generic now. So
Yeah.
that'd be my recommendation is find a doctor that can write it for you. And it
You do
does
have to
take,
be patient. It does
yeah, it does take a while because
take
there's
a
so,
while.
it literally just became generic like a month ago or 2
Yeah.
months
I mean,
ago.
it might take them a month, and like Aspen Pharmacy will call you. So like it's annoying, but answer the calls that you don't know because it could be them. They'll call you. And that's why I say answer it, because if you try to call them, you're not going to get through.
Yeah. So, but you can get it. We get
Mhm.
Farxiga now for $30 a month.
But it can
That's
take
the
up to a
cheapest.
month. Like once your doctor sends in the prescription, and can take it like it can take Aspen Pharmacy like a month to contact you.
Yeah. Which is annoying.
And
then
then
sometimes you gotta
also,
have
and then
the
when you need
doctor call 'em,
refills, you have to,
aggressively call them.
yeah, or they'll no, they call me when I'm ready for a refill. They'll call me.
Yeah.
So, but you have to answer the phone when they call,
Yeah. Because then you call back and
because
you
you
won't
call
get
back and you
anyone.
won't get anybody. And there's no way you can do an automatic like renewal without them having to call you, because it's
Yeah.
trial.
Yeah. It's a mess right now. But
Yeah.
if you wanted to buy it via alternative sources, I will not talk about those publicly. So you'd have to
No.
be in my private group to do so. And I hate to do that. Like, I'm not trying to like dangle a carrot, but
No.
like that's just the nature of the beast when it comes to social media stuff. Can you explain how to tame appetite on enclomiphene? Also on Reddit, split dose 4 milligrams twice weekly, but can't stop eating. Yeah, I mean your testosterone's higher, so your metabolism's higher, so you're going to want to eat
Mhm.
more. I would say it's not necessarily a bad thing, but if the appetite's a problem, a couple things you can do interventionally. You can do orforglipron. Just take that on days that you know that like the appetite's going to be raving.
Mhm.
That will usually knock it out. Tesofensine, I always go back to tesofensine. I forget to talk about it, but like that does have an appetite suppressing effect on a lot of people. Calicurb, the supplement
Mhm.
Calicurb you can get is a good one. So there's other things out there that you can do. And it will probably normalize after a little bit, but if you're just starting it or have recently started it, your body's going through this metabolic adaptation to now you're burning more calories. So it's like craving more food.
Yeah.
And then sometimes too, people get more hungry on Retta because their metabolic rate's increasing on Retta. Oral nandrolone daily is all over social media. I didn't even know that was a thing. Oral nandrolone. I didn't even know that was possible.
No.
But I'm not, I mean, like nandrolone, that's Deca. It's like whatever. Like, I don't know. I know there's like a nandrolone only contingent and people do that and that's fine. But It's just whatever to me. It's a different type of testosterone. Like it's 19 nor testosterone, which can be different. I think for some people it can be good, but it's okay. If that's what people jive with, it's fine, but I just don't know. I didn't even know there was an oral version. Wendy says, cream I inject and I am trying to him to switch, but he has a heavy travel schedule and only does. Well, that would make sense
That
to why
makes
his
more sense.
testosterone is lower because the cream will typically do that for
Yeah.
people because it doesn't, in my opinion, doesn't like saturate the receptors long enough. And I've seen that a lot.
Yeah.
Does heart rate eventually go down on Retta? Depends on the person. Clinically, trial speaking, it does, but some people it doesn't. So
Yeah.
someone with autoimmune and hyperglycemic, what we use, low dose tirzepatide would be the first thing for sure. And I'd say thiaminosin alpha 1 and L37 would help too. Is KP1 that expensive? Honestly, I haven't been able to source it. Think about a powerful stack of SLU 915, SS31, B733, and potential KP1. Found a source. I don't have a source, but from what I've heard from other people, it's like $800 a bottle. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I've never tried it. So, for Graves autoimmune TA1, yeah, sure. I think so. Like, I think that would be a good thing. I don't think it would hurt, is what I'm saying for that. But again, I just don't. Sometimes I don't want to speak specifically to things that I don't know. You can mitigate the high dose SLU by adding PQQ and urolithin A. You probably could. Like, I'm sure that helps. Probably SS31 too.
Yeah.
58, taking 12.5 milligrams of TERS a week. Ipamorelin, CJC, 8 units each per night. I have meat aversion, can't seem to move scale from 160. I'm thinking starting Retta and Tessa suggestions. You definitely could. It's just one of those things, like especially at 58, I would again to beat the dead horse and be annoying for everyone, like ask about your hormones. Because if you're on that much tirzepatide per week and you're on a GH agonist combo like that, there's no reason if your hormones are optimized that you shouldn't be moving the scale, assuming that you're exercising and dieting healthy and everything. I mean,
testosterone is going to help tremendously.
Yeah, I'm like, sure, you could do Retta and TERS. Maybe that moves a little bit, but it's not going to fix the underlying issue.
Go down one. She put another. No, sorry, one more after that. There you go.
On 7.5 TERS, Clo 80 NAD and glutathione, and are on a plateau. No medical condition. 47 years. Woman. Any suggestions? I'm also on HRT. Yeah, I mean, kind of depends. If the HRT is injectable testosterone, progesterone, I would say if that's the case, because a lot of times when people say HRT, that can be a loaded statement. But if you're doing all those, maybe 5-amino helps, maybe SS31 helps, maybe MOTS-c helps.
Adding more HIIT cardio.
Yeah, more HIIT cardio, maybe even more carbs.
More carbs.
Depending on if you're doing a low carb diet, can also sometimes help the thyroid.
Yeah.
I would say thyroid too.
Thyroid.
At that point.
We didn't talk about thyroid, but definitely thyroid.
Yeah. I don't know any suppliers for Canada, and even if I did, I wouldn't talk about them online because that'll get your content taken down. On TRT, 40 milligrams 3 times a week and tests about 1,000. Climax takes a while, and my provider suggested HCG. What are your thoughts? I think for some guys that can be helpful. Like I definitely think HCG for a lot of guys helps with sexual function.
Injectable estradiol.
Yeah. Here's what's interesting is, I don't know if this is the case. So there's a drug called Duloxetine, which is an SSRI that delays climax in men that have premature ejaculation. And I wonder in some cases if someone's on an SSRI, I'm not saying in this case it is, but if like there's a serotonin interplay there that potentially is affecting that with climax, potentially too, it could be, I wonder what the estradiol is here, because a lot of times estradiol will help with sensitivity in the erection that would then lead to climax. So if you're using an aromatase inhibitor or things of that nature, that would obviously be affecting it as well. So it kind of depends on the person. I would need to know more, but HCG could definitely help, especially because a lot of times like you get extra aromatization out of the HCG, which then would help with the sensitivity, which would then help with climax. So that'd be my recommendation for what I can estimate there. May says no testosterone. Well, that would be the reason.
That would be
so that would
big
be
one. I would definitely which makes me think that I'm probably taking progesterone and estradiol patch. I stop taking. If you are, I would stop taking
The
the
estradiol.
estradiol patch
Yeah.
and get on no estradiol patch, just progesterone. Day
And
12
testosterone.
or yeah, so just progesterone, days 12 of the month. So progesterone, and again, even being at the hormone conference, like I'm I think a lot of the doctors there agreed with this, is that like progesterone every day is way more beneficial than just day 12,
Yeah.
starting at day 12. So I would definitely switch that and then get testosterone.
Yeah.
No estrogen at your age.
Devin says, can I add NAD with my 1 milligram MOTS-C, 200 milligrams ATX pre-cardio? Would I add SS31 at the same time, or does it matter? I mean, SS31 is kind of up to you. You could if you wanted to.
I would
just do it after.
I would save it and do it during a different cycle.
Yeah. NAD is fine. I just lean towards using 5-amino.
Yeah.
Because it's so much, I think it's better.
That's what I would say. Don't worry about the SS31 right now. Put the NAD and the injectable 5-amino with the MOTS-C together, like an ATX. That's going to be like the perfect sauce for a pre-cardio workout. And then wait and use the SS31. Especially like if you're like in a fat loss phase, I would wait and use SS31 once you're kind of done out of your fat loss phase.
Yeah. Our group is just called the Axion Collective. So if you go to the links, there's always a link in the video description. Just click on the links thing, and then you'll see a button that says join the group. And then it's there, and it's $99 a month. You can cancel anytime. I know some people do this, like they're just going to do it. They just join to get the information or to like ask me a question or two, and then they leave, which I can't stop people from doing. But I don't know, I love the group. For me, it's like every day I get to interact in the group and help people. And there's so much of other people meeting other people in the group. So we got like 250 people in there now. It's going really strong. We love doing the calls on Thursday night. And so it's been going good. We've had a lot of people join recently, but that's there. So is oxytocin for intimacy? Yes, it can help with that. Yes, I would not say it has a Molly effect, though.
No. No. I would say it helps with intimacy in the sense of like, I think it's great for people that like have like a harder time with empathy and getting more in touch with their feelings, or if you're especially for females, because intimacy is very much mental for a lot of women, and to kind of just help with them relaxing their mind and getting their mind in that place of relaxation.
Agreed.
Or if you're a man who struggles to be more in touch with their feelings and feeling empathy and feeling that empathetic area, I think it's great too.
Yeah. We spoke a couple months ago. My wife had symptoms of blood work showed hyperthyroidism with TSH and T4T3. Got her on thyroid biregulator as suggested, and the liposomal glutathione. Hopefully that helped.
Yeah.
Oh, he finished the comment. Hyper switched to hypo for a couple weeks and went away. Blood work came back to normal. Still taking glutathione. There you go. Those bioregulators, they do work in a lot of cases. We'll answer these next couple, and then we'll shut it down. Check out oxaloacetate. I've actually used that, but I didn't know this because they both work on AMPK, but it feels like it works synergistically better with ATX304. Very good to know. I do like the oxaloacetate. You can get that off of Amazon. Dina, the AI is available to everyone. It is completely free right now. So just go to chat.hunterwilliamshealth.com and you can play around with it. Chat.hunterwilliamshealth.com. And lumbrokinase and serapeptase. I think those are good. I think they're good to take. Why do you recommend SS31 outside of the fat loss phase? I haven't thought about this even when scheduling my SS31 cycles. I mean, I think you do it in or out of fat loss phase. Like it's good to have both.
Yeah. So I think it's more beneficial to use it after a fat loss phase, because you think about it, like you're in fat loss phase, you're you're burning more energy, you're in a calorie deficit. It's going to be a little bit more taxing on the body. I think it's going to come in and kind of act as a way to help replenish the body and to replenish the mitochondria structure, because it's been through, when you're in fat loss phase, your body's in more stress.
Yeah.
So it's going to go in there and kind of replenish the stress damage that's been done to the body.
Yeah. I like 5 amino sub Q, and I would start with 1 milligrams. 1 to 2 milligrams for me is a sweet spot. I know people do like 10 milligrams. Hey, if you like it, all for you. But I like 1 to 2 milligrams. That works really well for me. And closing out with Sean. Thank you, Sean. You're the best too. He says Axion is the best info at best access. We appreciate that. Appreciate everyone in there,
Yes.
including you, Sean. So
yes,
we will go ahead and shut it down. As always, thank you guys for making our Saturday morning so fun and so entertaining. Hopefully you enjoy this as much as we enjoy making it. But you know where to find us. Like I said, all those links are in that one link out there. But we appreciate and love each and every one of you, whatever form or fashion it is you support us, using our code at places, being in the group, being on the email list, sharing this with friends and family. It goes so much further than you know in helping us bring this to you. So thank you guys. And hopefully we'll be back in 2 weeks for that.
Thank
and
you guys.
We'll see you in the next one.
Yeah.
Peace.